My grandmother, who firmly believed Peachwood branches could ward off evil spirits, was whipping my feverish younger brother with them. Seeing my brother foaming at the mouth from the beating, I called our parents back home, saving his life. My brother grew up as hoped, but under our parents' pressure, I became trapped in the role of my brother's perpetual supporter. I dropped out of school to work and pay for my brother's education. When I finally found true love, my parents drove him away by demanding an outrageous bride price of $5 million. Later, my brother got married and had children, and at 35, I became the unpaid live-in nanny for his family. My parents and brother always said that if I helped him now, he would surely repay me in the future, but when I needed money for treatment due to long-term malnutrition, my own brother kicked me out of the house. You eat my food, drink my drinks, and still covet my money. You're nothing but an ungrateful wretch. I died alone, forgotten in the freezing snow. Then I opened my eyes again. I was transported back to when my 7-year-old brother was burning up with a relentless fever. The old village saying had always been that peachwood branches could ward off evil spirits. If a child cried, you'd give them a light tap with a peach branch. If a child fell ill, you'd just keep on tapping. If one lash doesn't work, then give it 2, 3, lash it hard. After giving birth to my brother and me, our parents left for the city to find work. That's how Grandma kept whipping my brother and me until we turned 7. We got whipped with peachwood branches too many times to count. The moment we saw Grandma pick up that peachwood branch, we'd immediately fall silent to avoid upsetting her. Seeing us quiet down, Grandma would chuckle and say, "Our ancestors knew best. No evil spirit dares show its face when the peachwood comes out." Back in those days, my younger brother and I only had each other to rely on. The thing I feared most was Grandma's peachwood switch, until I grew up, became homeless, and died from serious illness. Only then did I realize the most terrifying thing in this world is actually the human heart. Sis, I feel awful. My 7-year-old brother was curled up in a ball on the heated brick bed, cold sweat beaded on his forehead, his whole body was trembling. I opened my eyes and looked at the childhood scene around me. My mind momentarily dazed. Grandma, who had been sleeping beside him, threw off the covers and turned on the light. In the dim light, Grandma reached out and felt her grandson's forehead, her brow furrowing with concern. She moved to hug him, but the boy pushed her away. The younger brother clutched the corner of the quilt and mumbled, "Mom, I want you to take me to the hospital." Grandma snorted coldly and scolded, "Since when is the hospital someplace you just casually go? That's where people go when they're ready to die. Your cousin became paralyzed after getting injections and medication at the hospital. You're possessed by an evil spirit. Medicine won't help. We need peachwood branches." As she spoke, Grandma pulled out peachwood branches hidden beneath the bed covers. She raised her hand and struck my younger brother with them. The little brother felt the pain and started wailing. "Wah, it hurts. I want Mom and Dad," Granny said through gritted teeth. "Your parents can't even fight off this little demon. Calling them back is useless. A few lashes and the spirit will be gone. What are you crying for? Acting like a real man." The sound of whipping grew more intense. My younger brother clenched his jaw tightly, not daring to make another sound. My mind gradually cleared. I finally realized I had been reborn back to the year when my brother Jaden was suffering from a persistent high fever. "Sis, after all these years of you living off me, don't you think it's too much to still be asking me for money? If you're sick, just die already. Why drag me down with you? My wife and son are sick of your pathetic, disgusting state. Don't make me lay a hand on you. Get lost. If you're going to die, do it somewhere far away. Someone like you just pollutes the air by being alive." The words spoken by 38-year-old Jaden right before my death still echo in my ears, before my eyes. 7-year-old Jaden was already foaming at the mouth and losing consciousness. I clenched my fists tighter. Gone was the panic and worry from my past life, nor did I have any thought of running barefoot for dozens of kilometers to the village store to call my parents in the city. I watched quietly as the peachwood switch in Grandma's hand came down on Jaden's body again and again. I listened in silence to the sharp crack of the peachwood switch meeting flesh. Several moths flew into the room. Amid the music woven by the rattan whip, dancing joyfully atop the lampshade, the wind outside seemed to hear the commotion too, tugging at the peach tree by the door and making it sway with lively grace. Grandma gave Jaden 100 lashes. The beating left his clothes soaked with blood. He thrashed him until he lay completely still. He beat him within an inch of his life. Panting heavily, Grandma felt Jaden's forehead and announced cheerfully, "The fever's broken. I told you peachwood branches are the only way to drive out evil spirits. Medicine and shots are useless." Exhausted from the effort, she couldn't be bothered to change Jaden's clothes and simply collapsed onto the bed. Muttering with conviction, she added, "This garment carries the blood of an innocent child and peachwood shavings. Those evil spirits won't dare come near my precious grandson when they see these." With that, the room soon echoed with Grandma's snores. I looked up. All I saw were Jaden's lips, nearly purple, and his chest completely still. By the time Jaden's body grew cold, a neighbor who came to borrow a hoe noticed something was wrong. The neighbor told Grandma that Jaden needed to go to the hospital. Grandma immediately waved her hand and said it wasn't necessary. She added that Jaden was just tired from last night, and with a bit more rest, he'd be back to his old self in no time. Seeing that she couldn't get through to Grandma, the neighbor promptly called Jaden's parents in the city. When Mom came home and saw Jaden's terrible condition, she nearly collapsed from crying. It was Dad who managed to keep a shred of composure and carried their son to the hospital. After receiving medical treatment, Jaden survived, but he was diagnosed with polio, leg paralysis, and brain atrophy would remain with Jaden for life. When his parents brought Jaden home, they looked utterly drained, as if dragged from water, with all light gone from their eyes. When Grandma heard the hospital's diagnosis, she refused to believe it. They even wanted to keep whipping Jaden with a Peachwood branch. It's all because of that evil spirit possessing him. I told you not to take him to the hospital. Now he's become as foolish as our simple-minded cousin. Are you even Jaden's real mother? What kind of mother harms her own son like this? Let me whip him with this Peachwood stick right now. Once we drive the evil spirit away, my precious grandson will be lively and energetic again. As Grandma closed in on Jaden, Mom finally snapped, yelling at Grandma, "You old hag, do you even realize you're the one who beat your own grandson senseless? Jaden just had a cold and fever, but you insisted on whipping him with that wooden stick. You beat him and didn't even give him clean clothes. His body is covered in severe infections. You reject doctors and science. You're the one who ruined your own grandson." Mom broke down, weeping in anguish. Dad's tears began to fall as well. Beneath their sorrow, my parents' eyes burned with pure hatred, all directed at Grandma, and this kind of hatred was something they had only ever reserved for me in my past life. If you don't drop out, who's going to pay for Jaden's tuition? He's your brother, the only one you can ever count on. You want to get married? Fine, bring me $5 million in bride price, and have that man buy your brother an apartment in the city, then I'll allow it. You're over 30, what kind of monthly salary could you even earn from some random job? You'd be better off being your brother's nanny, at least he'd owe you a favor, like I've said before. Don't even think about marriage without $5 million and an apartment, once we're old. You'll take care of me and your father. Our pension money will all go to you anyway. They sweet-talked me into giving everything, then turned around and called me useless. I always put family first, but who would have thought that my years of hard work and dedication would lead to such a miserable end, dying alone and leaving nothing behind? Well, now it's all over. Jaden is a disabled fool who can't go to school, get married, or have children, and I no longer have to earn his tuition, save up for his bride price, or play the role of his nanny. Seeing the room filled with worried faces, I huddled in the corner. An involuntary smile crept across my lips. Mom couldn't bear to leave Jaden alone with Grandma to suffer. Mom stayed behind in the village. She kept Jaden company day and night, holding on to hope that Jaden would recover one day. But how could Grandma, who frequently beat Jaden with peach branches while Mom was out working in the fields, ever allow him a real chance at recovery? Your brother's condition is caused by a malevolent spirit possession, but this is no ordinary spirit. It's a vicious ghost. Just watch me exorcise this evil spirit. No one gets to harm your brother. Hang in there, Jaden. Once this demon is gone, you'll be back to normal. Despite several discreet attempts at treatment, Grandma still hadn't seen Jaden return to his normal self. Just as Mother was following the family planning policy to get an IUD inserted, Grandma completely lost her temper. She started whipping Jaden relentlessly. It was even more violent than the beating that night. 3 Peachwood branches were snapped clean in half. I crouched silently in the corner, watching little Jaden wail in pain. The small child didn't have a single patch of unbruised skin left on his body. Once again, it was the neighbor who heard the commotion and rushed to the clinic to call Mom back, saving Jaden from being beaten to death by his grandmother. When Mom returned and saw her beloved son suffering so terribly, she was too overwhelmed to even cry and collapsed to the floor. Mom asked the neighbor to call Dad home. Dad immediately rushed Jaden to the hospital without a moment's delay. Grandma was still trying to stop Dad, muttering through her tears, "We can't go to the hospital. We mustn't go. If we take him to the hospital, my precious grandson will be done for. My dear grandson, if we can just get through this night, you'll be better by morning." Fed up with Grandma's superstitious beliefs, Dad shoved her away with a sharp kick. The murderous rage in his bloodshot eyes was palpable enough to chill the bone. Grandma was so terrified by Dad's outburst that she was left speechless for a long while after Dad had stormed off. Only then did Mother snap out of her daze. She slowly got up from the ground, went outside, and broke off a thick, long branch from the peach tree. Then, step by step, she walked toward Grandma. Seeing Mother's distraught appearance, Grandma thought she had also been possessed. "Child, what's come over you?" Mother let out a cold laugh and said, "Mom, you're always complaining about your back and legs hurting. I heard Peachwood can ward off evil spirits. Thought I'd try driving them out of you." A vicious glint flashed in Mother's eyes. Grandmother froze, then, grandmother's piercing scream echoed through the entire house. You're an unfilial child. This Peachwood switch only works when elders discipline the young to ward off evil spirits. She's lost her mind. My daughter-in-law has completely lost her mind. Stop hitting them. Enough. Stop right now. You're going to beat them to death. I was squatting in the dirt in front of the door, playing with mud. Passers-by couldn't help but stop and stare when they heard the commotion coming from the house. Then came a wave of murmurs. Superstition is going to be the death of someone. Who in their right mind would whip their own grandchild like that? Old Mrs. Mildred is going to make her son and daughter-in-law despise her. The old lady's going to have a tough time from now on. Mom was a real pro when it came to farm work. She was strong and in the prime of her life. That beating left Grandma partially paralyzed. When Father learned that his own mother had been struck down with a stroke by his wife, he was so enraged that he slapped Mother across the face. He put all his strength into that slap. The force of it sent Mother crashing to the ground. The impact of the fall caused her to bleed on the spot, as she had an IUD inserted. Jayden is still in the hospital. Then Grandma was admitted to the hospital. We still haven't paid off Grandma's substantial medical bills. Meanwhile, Mom's gynecologist informed her that the IUD had become embedded, and even after its removal, she would no longer be able to have children. It happened overnight. Dad's temples had turned gray, as if he'd aged 10 years. I brought the egg fried rice I made to Dad and said, "Don't be sad, Dad. I'll study hard, get into university, and make you proud." Dad finally couldn't hold back his tears any longer. He held me in his arms and broke down sobbing. "Sweetheart. From now on our family is counting on you. You've got to make us proud. Make something of yourself." Honestly, Dad didn't need to say that. I've been telling myself the same thing over and over in my head. In this lifetime, I will never be anyone's stepping stone. I'll never give anyone the chance to humiliate me. Villagers said Jayden was pitiful, paralyzed and mentally impaired at such a young age. They also said Grandma was pitiful. To suffer such hardship at this age. The villagers felt even sorrier for Mother, stuck caring for two invalids with no freedom to go anywhere. Of course, in the villagers' eyes, I was the most pitiful of all. Mom would watch Jayden, who had dementia, and cry all day long. Every few days, she'd end up arguing with Grandma, who could no longer speak. Dad's salary alone wasn't enough to cover Grandma and my younger brother's medical expenses. So Mom had to look after Grandma and my brother while also doing odd jobs to make ends meet. Almost all the household responsibilities fell on my shoulders. I was only 9 years old. Every day at 5, I'd get up to gather pig feed. By 6, the pigs were fed, and breakfast was on the table for Grandma, my younger brother, and Mom. Only after finishing breakfast and cleaning up could I head to school. During the midday break, I'd dash all the way home from the village elementary school to make lunch. After finishing lunch and cleaning up, I head back to school for afternoon classes. When school lets out in the afternoon, I have to dash home to prepare dinner. Once dinner is done and the kitchen tidy, I help Grandma and my little brother with their bedtime routines, and sometimes scrub out the pigsty and chicken coop. To the villagers, my constant busyness only painted a picture of pity, but I don't feel sorry for myself, because I've always been the one doing these things anyway. Back then, I even had to gather pigweed with Jayden on my back, do laundry and cook meals while carrying him, enduring Grandma's baseless scolding and insults, accepting my parents' clear favoritism towards my younger brother, comparing the past with the present. Now that I'm in charge of this chicken coop, I can occasionally stash away a few eggs for myself. My life is clearly getting better and better. Their misery has nothing to do with me. That year, I graduated from elementary school. Mom had finally exhausted the last shred of maternal love she had for Jayden. She had no desire to stay in the village looking after Grandma and Jayden, the two invalids, so Mom asked Dad to let me drop out of school so she could go out and earn money. Dad understood Mom's frustration all too well, but he was more worried about what the villagers would say if they left two bedridden people in the care of a 10-year-old, so he did his best to reassure Mom and urged her to hang in there. I reassured Mom that I'll definitely make something of myself and repay my parents in the future. You can't have any more children now, so Lyra is our only hope. Even though she's just a girl, she's our own flesh and blood. That's better than some foundling from who knows where. The teacher even came by specially to say Lyra has a real gift for learning. She could get into a top university someday. We just need to tough it out for another decade or so, even in the worst case scenario. Having Lyra get more education means she could at least marry well and receive a decent bride price someday. Me, standing outside the door listening to my parents argue, I chose that moment to push the door open and walk in. I took out the scholarship money I'd won from the Olympiad competition. "Mom, Dad, here's the $100 I won with my gold medal. My teacher said if I keep studying hard, I can keep earning scholarships. I'll be able to repay you soon, once I get into university." Move to the big city, and start making real money. I'll find the best doctors for my brother and the best retirement home for grandma. Someday I'll buy a big house and bring you both to live in the city. I'll always take care of you, little me." Those words were spoken with genuine sincerity. There wasn't a trace of pretense in my delivery. Dad's eyes welled up instantly, moved to tears by having such a wonderful daughter. But Mother's eyes remained icy cold. Reflecting deep-seated distress from the very core of her being, Mother walked over and tore the 100 yuan bill from my hand. Then she slapped me hard across the face. Her fingers trembled as she spoke with venomous words. "You little brat, you might fool your father, but you can't fool me. For 2 years in this house, you barely said a word, but the moment your dad comes home, you're all over him, trying to win him over. Going to college to make big money. Don't think I don't know what you're really up to. You want to study hard and escape this house, don't you? The only middle school is in the county town, and if you go, you'll have to live on campus. Then you'll never come back to help out. You'd leave me alone to take care of 2 invalids while you're out there living it up. Don't you dare dream of it." My father shielded me in his arms and immediately started arguing with my mother. "Don't take your anger out on the child. Lyra's just a little girl. What could she possibly know? She just wants to read. Unlike you, her mind isn't filthy. You're the one who can't handle hardship. I know you hate me. Fine, let's get divorced. You're a barren hen. Who'd want you after we split?" Dad kept threatening divorce. Mom blamed everything on me. Every time villagers saw me, they'd say you have elders and children at home, urging me not to work away. They kept telling me Lyra's a good girl and I should treat her right. Who blabbed about me wanting to find work elsewhere? Who's been gossiping behind my back? It has to be Lyra. Who else could it be? When your mother was beating Jaden with that Peachwood branch, Lyra just stood there watching. She's a grown woman with an education. She must have known your mother's superstitions were nonsense. So why did she stay silent while Jaden got beaten black and blue? I'm telling you, she did it on purpose. Playing the victim for the whole village to see. Egging your mother on to beat Jaden within an inch of his life. Mom reached for my hand as she spoke. Dad shoved poor, innocent me out the door. The door was locked tight, but my parents' shouting match was still clearly audible from the other side. Mom hurled insults at me. Dad stood up for me. Outside the door, Jaden sat slumped in his stroller, staring vacantly into space. Grandma was slumped in her recliner, her face contorted and mouth askew. To outsiders, this household probably seemed like a complete mess, but to me, this was exactly how our home was meant to be. Mom was right. I deliberately stayed silent and watched Grandma hit Jaden. I kept telling the villagers that Mom abandoned my brother and me, putting social pressure on our parents. I even told my teacher I might have to drop out of school, hoping she'd contact my dad to come back. This was all part of my master plan, all to escape this house. Let Mom wait on Jaden and Grandma for the rest of her life. Let Mom be reduced to a slave for this family. Make sure Mom never gets back on her feet for the rest of her life. I got my wish and went to junior high school. On the day I left home, Mom was gnashing her teeth in frustration because she couldn't leave my younger brother and grandmother behind. Meanwhile, I was still making empty promises to Dad, repeatedly vowing to study hard and repay my parents. Seizing the moment, Mom made a decision with Dad. I'll put up with it for 6 more months. If Lyra doesn't show any improvement in her studies by then, she'll drop out immediately to take care of her brother and grandma, and I'll go out to work instead. Otherwise, if her grades stay this poor, it'd just be a waste for us to keep supporting her education. Dad listened, then turned his gaze to me. I immediately responded, "Don't worry, Mom and Dad. I'll study hard and won't let you down." Dad was very pleased with my answer. Before I left, he slipped $200 into my pocket. He specifically told me not to tell Mom. First semester of 7th grade, I occasionally give my parents updates about how things are going at school. I'd throw in some sweet talk to keep them happy. I served their own words right back to them, the exact same lines they'd used to coax me into supporting my brother. "Mom, you've been working so hard taking care of my little brother and grandma. Once I'm able to, I'll definitely hire a helper for you. Every family in our town has a car now. I'm going to buy one for Dad too someday, so he can come back from out of town whenever he wants. I heard Beijing has the best hospitals. I'll study hard to get into a school there and bring my little brother to Beijing with me." Kind words are always a pleasure to hear. Dad always breaks into a warm smile whenever he hears me say these things. Mom didn't show as much delight as Dad did, but hearing it often enough, she couldn't help starting to believe it, and her attitude toward me noticeably softened. It even got to the point where I started receiving a monthly allowance of 200 yuan from Dad, with Mom's approval. I had to make do with just these 200 yuan. I could buy school supplies, study materials, meals, and bedding. I could take good care of myself and devote myself wholeheartedly to my studies. End of semester exams in the first semester of 7th grade. I lived up to my own expectations and came first in the entire school, and so it began. My academic journey became increasingly smooth sailing. Meanwhile, Mom, nourished by my honeyed words yet crushed by Dad's relentless oppression, gradually resigned herself to her fate. The high school entrance exam, I got into the city's top accelerated program. Back in our village, most girls who finished junior high either left for migrant work or had their marriages arranged. Matchmakers have started coming to our house too. Mom had the foresight to discuss with Dad about arranging a marriage for me first. I admit Lyra is a good student, and if she keeps this up, she'll definitely get into a good university, but she's still a girl. What if she grows wings and flies away from us? Girls aren't as reliable as sons. I want to tie a string to Lyra. No matter how far she flies, we'll still have hold of the other end. You know the village chief has that one-eyed son, right? The matchmaker came by and said he's taken a liking to Lyra. Since Lyra's still young, we could just get them engaged first. They can wait to marry until after she finishes school. What's the rush? Once they're married, Lyra will still be right here with us anyway. The village chief promised that once they're engaged, he'll send over 200,000 in bride price immediately. We could use that to fix up the house a bit, buy you a car. It would make taking Jaden to the city for medical appointments so much easier. What do you think? Mom's words started to win Dad over. Then Mom sent Dad to convince me to accept the marriage proposal, but before Dad could even start to talk me out of it, I pulled out an iPhone and handed it to him. He was taken aback. He'd never used one before, but he'd certainly heard of them and seen them around. Where did you get this? A classmate gave it to me. The words slipped out before I could think. Dad's eyes widened. What classmate? Why would they give you an iPhone? These things cost thousands, I said calmly. Really? It costs thousands. I had no idea. When I went to register for the accelerated class at City No. 1 high school today, a male classmate asked for my number to keep in touch. I told him I don't have a phone, so he just gave me his own phone, but he kept the SIM card and said I'd need to get a new one. I don't want to spend money on that, so you can have it. Dad, your phone is pretty old anyway. And this way you can call Mom more often. Dad was speechless, completely at a loss for what to ask next. I went on. Boys these days are so annoying, always distracted by silly things instead of focusing on school. Even in middle school, I kept getting love letters, and now in high school it's the same story. I heard this guy's father is the mayor, and his mother works in the education department or something. Seems like a high-ranking official. He'll have no trouble getting ahead in life, but I just want to focus on my studies. Dad swallowed hard, in the end. She never actually came out and suggested I get engaged to the village chief's one-eyed son. He turned and went into the house, relaying everything I had just said to my mother. We can't risk losing the big prize for a small gain. Our Lyra could marry the mayor's son. How could the village chief's son, and a one-eyed one at that, ever be worthy of our Lyra? Listen, this is our one shot at making it big. Don't you dare mess this up. I don't care what you say. I'll never agree to let Lyra go to the village chief's house. I'm determined to become in-laws with the mayor. That's just how simple-minded Dad is. That's how naive he can be. He never stops to consider what his own daughter looks like, or what our family's actual circumstances are. My mind is completely occupied by studying every day. I have no time to dress up or socialize, let alone anyone foolish enough to confess their feelings to me. That iPhone is just a second-hand device I scraped together money for over the past 3 years by pinching every penny, all just to avoid the disaster that happened today. Look, as long as the promised pie is big enough, Mom and Dad won't be tempted by immediate gains. Looking back on my past life, when my parents demanded a $5 million betrothal gift from my boyfriend to stop me from marrying far away, why didn't I consider my own circumstances? What fool would spend $5 million to marry a penniless woman from a humble background, destined to support her brother? Yet I foolishly believed the brainwashing from my parents and brother. Sweetie, the $5 million is for your own good. You're so beautiful and capable, you deserve a hefty betrothal gift. If that man truly cared about you, he'd move heaven and earth to earn those $5 million. Just think, you've spent your whole life bearing children and toiling like a beast of burden for others. How could that not be worth $5 million? Thinking back on what my parents used to say, it's actually pretty laughable now. Just as hilarious as it is now. After the college entrance exams, I checked my scores, then I set off for Beijing without a second thought. In August, I successfully received my admission letter. In September, I enrolled in school using the money I earned from my summer job. I told my parents they wouldn't need to send me any more money, as I could support myself through work-study programs. I assured them they could look forward to me repaying them after graduation. They accepted this arrangement with complete peace of mind, never worrying about whether I was eating well or drinking properly out there, or if I'd grown accustomed to life after moving from south to north. And me, I finally closed my account book. That book recorded every single penny I'd spent using my parents' money before turning 18. As a young child, I subsisted on 3 steamed buns and 3 sweet potatoes every day, during my middle and high school years. My monthly allowance was 200 yuan, adjusted for today's prices. That amounts to no more than 20,000 yuan in total, even accounting for interest and inflation. Repaying my parents with 50,000 yuan would be the most I could manage. The figure of 50,000 is etched in my memory. I'm just waiting for the day I can pay them back, so I can finally cut all ties with them. Sweetie, you're in your second year of college now. You should be able to get a scholarship, right? Your aunt mentioned that good schools offer quite generous scholarships. Also, are you seeing anyone? Is it the mayor's son? How much allowance does he give you each month? Back in middle school, every time I called home, I'd sweet-talk my parents into giving me allowance. Mom had caught on to my game long ago. To avoid giving me allowance so often, she stopped taking my calls. High school was tough enough. Getting living expenses from my parents felt like pulling teeth. Now I'm in college. I don't need their financial support anymore, yet suddenly they've started calling me all the time. I know they were afraid I'd spread my wings and fly away once I was capable enough to get through my studies without disruption. I had no choice but to scrape together some money from my scholarship to give them. Then I scraped together a bit more from my work-study earnings for them too, no matter the amount. As long as the money is transferred to them, it always keeps them quiet for a while. But my parents' level of greed is more than a college student like me can handle. In just 2 short years, that 50,000, I've actually paid it all off. Staring at the zeroed-out balance in the ledger, a faint smile graced my lips. It was the joy of having redeemed myself, regardless of whether my parents acknowledge it. But to me, from now on, I will have nothing more to do with them. My sophomore year came to an end. I enlisted in the strengthening the military program. After going through multiple rounds of selection, I was the only qualified female student in the entire school to successfully enlist and become a compulsory servicewoman. At boot camp, we were completely cut off from the outside world, and they couldn't reach us either. We got the occasional day off. I couldn't even be bothered to respond to my parents' constant nagging. I just focused on my studies like I always had. Live life as it comes. While other recruits were grumbling about the intense physical training, I was the only one going about my days with a smile. My roommates called me a born optimist, but they had no idea. Life in the military camp has truly been the most comforting and warmest experience I've ever known. I no longer have to live in constant fear of my parents preventing me from going to school. I don't have to worry about where my next meal will come from after finishing this one, most importantly. I'm free from the psychological burden of feeling indebted to my parents. We get 3 square meals a day here, with 3 dishes and soup for every meal. This is a closed-off facility, so nobody can get in to cause me trouble. All I have to do is eat well, sleep well, and exercise regularly. Everyone here eats the same food and sleeps in the same beds. No gender discrimination, no class distinctions, here. Everyone is equal. I felt a level of respect I had never experienced before. During those years of study, I couldn't bear the thought of receiving pitying looks from classmates and teachers. I always wait until the cafeteria is empty before going to scavenge a bite to eat. I don't want to be mocked by classmates for menstrual stains either, always carefully wrapping layer upon layer of cotton cloth to use as pads, but the more I try to conceal it, I became increasingly exposed in front of my classmates and teachers. There were always latecomers who saw me eating leftovers alone in the corner of the cafeteria. Observant classmates would inevitably notice the awkward bulges in my pants. Combined with my withdrawn nature and constant gloom, I rarely socialized with other students. I was always the odd one out in class. I faced silent treatment and cold stares. It became my daily reality, even during my 2 years at university. I was buried under 50,000 yuan in debt. I studied relentlessly and worked multiple jobs day and night. My life was far from what a normal person or student should experience. Now, I have food to eat and clothes to wear. How could I not be content? But my parents, who had been eagerly waiting for me to make something of myself, stormed into the boot camp without hesitation after learning I had enlisted. They specifically demanded to see me. The instructor thought my parents missed me too much, so he let them in, to my surprise. The instructor hadn't left yet. My parents immediately started packing my bags and insisted I go back with them. We sent you to college so you could land a decent job after graduation, not to fool around in this godforsaken place. Get back to school now, focus on getting your diploma, then find a job. You promised you'd give us all your earnings, for your brother's treatment and to put grandma in a nursing home. Hurry up, go, go. We will never agree to you joining the military. But things had already gone too far. How could I just walk away just because they said no? Joining the military is no child's play. The instructor frowned immediately upon hearing the parents' words. At first, the instructor patiently explained to the parents the saying, when one serves in the army, the whole family is honored. Later, the instructor couldn't stand the ignorant parents' unreasonable pestering anymore and declared, if you let Lyra leave, fine, but she will be treated as a deserter. From now on, Lyra will be placed on the serious dishonesty list. Let's see which organization or company would dare to hire her. The parents felt the instructor was threatening them. They weren't buying any of it. They even raised their voices louder than the instructor. If this weren't a military camp, they might have even gotten physical with the instructor. While my parents were arguing with the drill instructor, I contacted the village chief. Soon after, the village chief arrived and promptly escorted my parents out. Stop making a scene. Joining the military is an honorable thing. Having a female soldier from our village is a credit to our entire community. If you keep making trouble, not only will you be cut off from this year's village dividends, but I might even face disciplinary action myself. You think military service is that easy? This is the Special Forces. They serve the nation's highest calling. Lyra is going to make something great of herself. Just be patient. You've waited all these years, a few more years until she becomes an officer, and your golden days will finally arrive. The village chief painted them an impossibly rosy picture of the future. This promise is even bigger than all the empty ones I've made before. My parents finally relented, but before leaving, they still took the few hundred yuan in allowance I'd managed to save over the past months, and they warned me, you don't need money in the army anyway. From now on, send all your pay home. If you don't transfer it, I'll come get it from you in person. I acknowledged the information. I simply couldn't bring myself to face them with any warmth, because the training at boot camp is about to conclude. I'm about to go somewhere they'll never find me. I joined the peacekeeping forces. Due to the sensitive nature of my role, I've practically vanished from everyone I used to know. My parents have completely lost contact with me. They wanted to come find me, but had no idea where to look. Their only hope rested with the village chief. The chief kept handing my parents one military commendation after another. Each time I sent money, I'd include an extra 1 or 2,000 yuan as the military family allowance. At first, my parents were thrilled. They felt I was finally starting to give back to the family, but as time went on, the quick-witted mother caught on immediately. Lyra clearly joined the military just to avoid us. If she hadn't enlisted, she'd be a corporate executive by now. Those positions pay nearly $1 million annually. Now we keep getting commendation banners and award certificates delivered to our door. But the actual bonuses are barely 1 or 2,000 yuan. What can you even do with that little money? Dad finally caught on. He finally realized I had completely slipped from their control. But what could he do about it now? My unique status grants me state protection. I don't have a household registration. I don't even have a legal name. All I have is a code name in the Registry of Heroes. 35 years old. I was injured during a peacekeeping mission. I chose to leave the military and pursue a civilian career path. When I left the service, I retrieved all my personal belongings, one ID card, a ledger. When the division commander pinned the medal on me, he said, all these years, you've never gone home. Now that you're being discharged, it's time you paid a visit, don't you think? Home. Such an unfamiliar word, but the division commander is right. I really should go home for a visit. It's a long journey home, 2 connecting flights, 3 train rides. When boarding the final bus, I encountered my ex-boyfriend from a past life on board. He was accompanied by a woman around his age. With a son and a daughter in tow, the whole family looked prosperous and well-fed. Looks like you're living a happy life. He and I exchanged a glance, gave a slight nod and smile, then stepped aside to make way for me. He said politely, military personnel first. I smiled faintly and said, I've already been discharged. Let the future of our nation go first. The 2 children gently touched my military uniform, their faces full of hope as they said, Mom, Dad, I want to be a soldier when I grow up too. The couple patted their children's heads and replied, then you must study hard. Only by becoming a capable person can you have the opportunity to serve our country. A warm and joyful atmosphere filled the room. Watching the scene filled my heart with comfort. The bus pulled into the station. 2 children gave me a portrait of a soldier in uniform. I took the portrait and carefully stored it in my suitcase. Step by step, I made my way toward the village. My military uniform drew quite a few glances. People kept turning to look at me, yet no one recognized who I was. That was until I ran into the elderly, retired village chief. He called out to me at once, Lyra, is that you? Lyra, you're finally back. Where have you been all these years? Come on, hurry home and see. The village chief led me to his home. The old dirt roads had all been paved with asphalt. The previous squalor and disorder had also been addressed. Rural development has undergone remarkable transformation compared to the past. These are all symbols of our nation's prosperity and strength. I'm delighted to see such positive changes in our village. The village head filled me in on recent village affairs while also sharing news about my family's circumstances. My parents spend their days wallowing in self-pity. They knew I earned a hefty salary and were absolutely seething with envy, repeatedly threatening to take me to court. But given my special status, the court wouldn't even hear their case. Fuming with frustration yet powerless to act, they had no choice but to swallow their anger, so they started pestering the village chief day in and day out. The village chief also made mistakes, so he simply resigned from his position altogether. The new village chief's first act was to take action against my parents, reporting their disrespect towards military personnel and village leadership. As a result, they were stripped of all their honors. Their portraits were even posted on the village committee's bulletin board, subjecting them to severe criticism and public reprimand. My parents didn't dare make any more trouble. They could only bury themselves in their own work, and it was at this very moment that my grandmother passed away. My biased grandmother never believed that Peachwood branches were ineffective. As soon as Didnt showed slight improvement from taking medicine, she went and broke off peach branches from the front yard, beating him half to death. When Mom came back from work and saw Grandma, who was partially paralyzed, still causing trouble, she flew into a rage. She snatched the peachwood branch and beat Grandma to death right then and there, and all because Grandma had died. Mom was saddled with the debt of a human life and was sent to prison, where she remained locked up for 20 years. As for my dad, after handling Grandma's funeral arrangements, he went and burned down the peach tree in front of the house. After that, since Didnt needed constant care, he could no longer go out to work. Just 1 year of taking care of Didnt, and my father couldn't stand this life revolving around a paralyzed son and a fool anymore. My father wanted to divorce my mother and find a new partner. But with a house empty of everything and a paralyzed son, even the 50-year-old woman in the village who'd been married 4 times wouldn't have him. My dad had no choice but to wait for my mom to come back. For some reason, my dad decided to take Didnt fishing on the river that day. When Didnt wanted to play in the water, my dad gave him a push that sent him overboard. Didnt couldn't swim, so he pulled my dad into the water with him. 2 people were flailing and struggling in the water. In the end, they both drowned. Their bodies were swept away by the current. No one knows where the currents carried them. 20 years had passed. When my mother got out of prison and heard the news, she collapsed in tears on the spot. The villagers comforted her, saying, even though the rest of the family is gone, at least Lyra has made something of herself. Once she's discharged from the military and comes home, you'll still have good days ahead. And so my mother waiting at home. Waiting at the village entrance, every day I gaze at my banners and awards, muttering to myself, my daughter would never abandon me. Once she returns, everything will get better. My best days are still ahead. Yes, she is a military dependent. She has always been the one receiving care, but this care only meets the basic standard. She doesn't have to work and has her basic needs met. She doesn't have to pay for health insurance. The hospital covers all her medical expenses. If she were content with what she has, she could live a very comfortable life, but she's never satisfied. She dreamed of owning a car, envisioned a grand villa, and yearned to move to the city to live like royalty. I stood at my doorstep. My mother sat by the entrance, staring at me with vacant eyes. After a long pause, she tentatively asked, Lyra, you are Lyra, aren't you? I nodded. I couldn't bring myself to call her mom. Yet she embraced me with tear-filled eyes. You've come back to repay me, haven't you? My life is about to get better, right? I nodded. Tears of joy streamed down her face. The moment her tears fell, she collapsed to the ground. At the hospital, doctors said the extreme emotional shock had triggered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage. They told us to start making funeral arrangements for my mother. In her final month, my mother could no longer eat anything or go anywhere, confined to her hospital bed. I kept vigil by her side day and night, sharing words we had never spoken before. Mom was actually quite sharp, while Dad was completely taken in by my stories. She was the first to notice something was off with me. You're absolutely right. When Grandma was beating Didnt with the peachwood branch, I deliberately didn't stop her. I even told Grandma that the wood splinters from the branch had better exorcism effects, and suggested she shouldn't smooth out the rough edges so Didnt's flesh would be filled with peachwood fragments. Later, when Mom couldn't take it anymore and wanted to leave the village, asking me to take care of my brother and grandmother, I was the one who told the villagers that you had abandoned us and were out looking for another man. It was also me who asked the teacher to specifically bring Dad back, so he could persuade you to let me go to school. At least this way we wouldn't give the villagers anything to gossip about. Dad cares more about saving face than sparing his wife from suffering. And when the village chief's one-eyed son wanted to marry me, I intentionally made Dad believe the mayor's son was pursuing me. Can't blame anyone but your own greed for actually falling for it. Have you ever stopped to consider our family's circumstances, or what your daughter actually looks like? How could you possibly entertain the notion that the mayor's son would ever look twice at me? When I recounted every moment of those years of silent endurance to my mother, she wept uncontrollably. Her eyes could no longer see, her voice had been stolen, yet her body continued to tremble violently. The doctors advised me to give up on treatment, but this is my mother we're talking about. She's the only family I have left in this world. How could I possibly let her die? Just slip away like that. My mother teetered on the brink of death 20 times. Each time, I begged the doctors to save her at any cost. Everyone thought I was the epitome of a devoted daughter, but deep down, only my mother knew I was doing it all out of spite, payback for all the suffering I endured those years, retribution for the misery I suffered in my past life. Mom was hooked up to tubes all over her body. After a month of agony, they finally breathed their last. I laid her to rest deep in the earth, planting Peachwood all around her grave. Grandma always said Peachwood wards off evil spirits, it can suppress malevolent entities. I wonder if the peach trees Grandma spoke of could truly subdue my mother's restless soul. After all, I don't want someone like that to get another chance at motherhood in their next life. Story 2. The zombie apocalypse begins in 1 week, and I've been reborn. In my past life, my boyfriend and best friend betrayed me, leaving me to die by zombie bites. They even skinned my 2 cats alive. This time, I won't be love-struck and naive. I'll make them pay for this. Spend every penny stockpiling supplies, then teach those scumbags a lesson. In the end, I'll retreat into my house with my 2 cats and live in complete isolation. I bolted upright, only to realize I was lying in bed all along. What's going on? Didn't Kai just push me into that zombie horde? Ding dong. A vibration came from under the pillow. I picked it up and saw a text message from my boyfriend Kai. Happy 23rd birthday. Baby Luna, come over Luna. Iris and I are cooking up a feast to celebrate. 1. Wait, didn't I die? How? A strange idea began forming in my mind. Could it be? The sudden wail of an ambulance siren interrupted me. My gaze snapped to the window, pupils contracting sharply. By the flower bed outside lay a bloodied figure, motionless on the pavement. A crowd had gathered around. Paramedics rushed out of the ambulance and surrounded the person on the ground. After exchanging solemn headshakes, they covered the body with a sheet. It turned out someone had jumped from the rooftop of the opposite building 10 minutes earlier. Cold sweat kept pouring down my body. The mournful wails outside could no longer hold my attention, because I knew exactly what was coming next. It seems I've truly been reborn. Ding dong. My phone vibrated with a photo notification from Kai. I tapped to see my bestie Iris smiling while holding a gorgeous cake. Kai stood behind, holding several pink balloons in his hands. They looked like a couple deeply in love. Staring at their faces in the photo sent a sharp pain through my head. Did I just reincarnate? This was the man who kept professing his love for me, the same man who, together with my decade-long best friend, pushed me straight into the zombie horde. It was these 2 despicable bastards who made me live in such constant fear during the apocalypse, only to still lose my life in the end. Staring at the photo on my phone, I felt nauseous, retching uncontrollably. My fingers flew across the phone screen, rapidly tapping out several lines of text. I'm so sorry. Sobs. My boss just assigned me an urgent business trip to City A. Just as I was about to send a few more messages to make it sound more genuine, their reply came flying in. What a shame. Don't worry. Luna's working hard to earn money when we get back. Iris and I will make it up to you with a proper birthday celebration. Kai's message made me physically sick. After my parents disappeared, they left me an apartment, a car, and 300,000 yuan. Over these years with Kai, he and Iris sweet talked me into investing 200,000 yuan in their so-called venture. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine the 2 people I trusted with all my heart would secretly hook up behind my back. In the end, it cost me my life, being slowly devoured by zombies. Bite by agonizing bite. Now that fate has given me a second chance, I'll never let that nightmare repeat itself. I'll make sure to witness those scumbags get exactly what they deserve. I will survive and thrive in this apocalyptic world. My gaze involuntarily fell upon the bracelet around my wrist. I grabbed the small scissors from the nightstand and jabbed them into my hand. Drops of blood trickled from my palm onto the bracelet, which suddenly emitted a blinding light. Ding. Portable subspace successfully bound. Hearing this inexplicable voice, I immediately felt a wave of relief wash over me. In my past life, I never realized the bracelet's mystical properties. I simply thought it was pretty. My mother gave it to me before she disappeared, saying it was a family heirloom I must never take off. Little did I know, after the apocalypse, Iris would snatch it for its beauty, ripping off a layer of my skin in the process, too. Had their bedroom door not been slightly ajar that time, letting me witness Iris magically produce a cup of instant noodles from her bracelet, I'd never have guessed the accessory held such secrets. Taking the hairband off my wrist, I mentally commanded, "Stir this." The hairband vanished instantly from my hand. I repeated the process, and it worked nearly every single time. I wonder if I can enter the space. Silently repeating in my heart, "Let me into the space." The moment those words left my lips, the scenery before me transformed instantly. A cozy two-bedroom apartment materialized before my eyes. A timetable on the living room wall caught my attention because it was peculiar, displaying 3 sets of times. One showed 07, 10, 30, another 5, 00, 00, and the last 00, 00, 00, circling past the living room. I pushed open a door to reveal a roughly 20 square meter bedroom. It had a bed, wardrobe, and such, but lacked bedding or covers. The second room took me completely by surprise. To be precise, this wasn't so much a room as an actual warehouse. The warehouse was roughly divided into 2 sections. One section was just empty space with nothing in it. Another section neatly housed 30 large storage shelves in a compact arrangement. One shelf was completely stocked with food, including at least 10 bulk bags of instant noodles alone. No wonder Iris could still pull out food from this space in her past life without prior stocking opportunities. Counting my steps, I estimated this area to be roughly 400 to 500 square meters. Beyond these, there's also a bathroom, a kitchen, and a 30 square meter terrace. A large capacity trash bin is placed in the corner of the terrace. The terrace even connects to a nearly 100 square meter field on its side. This space is full of surprises at every turn. With this plot of land, I should still be able to grow fresh vegetables after the apocalypse. As I exited the space, my eyes instinctively darted to the timetable. Then the scene shifted back to my familiar bedroom. I grabbed paper and pen from the nightstand, recorded both entry and exit times from the clock, and after some thought, began to see the connection. The first time matches what's on my phone. That's the actual current time. The second one must be a 5-hour countdown. I still haven't figured out what this countdown and that unchanging final time actually mean. When I opened the bedroom door, 2 fluffy furballs came darting over, rubbing against my ankles. These are my 2 cats, Buddy and Mia. I opened 2 large cans of food and filled their bowls. Watching them purr and gobble down the food filled me with guilt. The secret of the bracelet from our past life was discovered by Iris only after all the food had been eaten. I was completely restrained by those toxic men and women. Then I watched helplessly as they skinned the barely alive cubs and devoured their flesh. They feasted for 3 full days. The sickeningly sweet aroma of roasted meat permeated the house for those 3 days, filling me with grief and nausea. Given a second chance, how could I possibly let this happen again? Buddy and Mia are like family to me. I'll make sure to protect them with everything I've got. Playing with a feather wand for the little ones while planning my next moves. Judging from the zombie outbreak in my past life, I only have 7 days to prepare. During this time, I need to stockpile enough supplies to last me and my 2 fur babies for several years. Most importantly, in the apocalypse, you can't trust anyone's intentions, whether it's to fend off zombies or guard against opportunistic humans. I'll need to arm myself with both defensive and offensive weapons. I currently have 100,000 in savings, plus another 100,000 left by my parents. As a precaution, I've also secured nearly 200,000 from various loan platforms. With careful budgeting, this should be enough. Time was of the essence. After a quick breakfast and requesting 10 days leave from my boss via phone, I immediately set out to gather supplies. I went to the car rental shop, looked around, and ended up renting a minivan from the owner for 10 days, after some persistent haggling. I got the owner to rent it to me for 900. Actually, my parents had left a car for me, but back then, Kai asked to borrow it for his commute a few times, and the car never made its way back to me. I cursed myself twice for being such a lovesick fool. Scrolling through my phone, I found the contact number of that window installer I'd randomly added before. We agreed I'd pay a deposit to have him install a security screen door today. Putting down my phone, I drove nearly an hour to the largest pet supplies factory in the neighboring city. When the boss heard I wanted to sponsor a stray cat rescue shelter in another city, he cheerfully led me into the factory. Buddy and Mia are such low-maintenance cats. They know how to use the toilet, saving me a fortune on cat litter. For a 10-year apocalyptic scenario, we'd need 120 bags of cat food, 1,000 cans of cat food, 10 years worth of deworming meds, internal-external, common feline medications, 10 cat beds for cat trees, 30 scratching posts, 10 Elizabethan collars, and 10 sets of food water bowls. Considering the need for stealth during the apocalypse, we'll only use 1 toys indoors, so I just bought 30 of them. After some thought, I don't think I've missed anything. Paid the deposit to the beaming, squinty-eyed shop owner and gave him the warehouse address, insisting he must deliver tomorrow. This warehouse was rented for Kai after he suddenly got the business bug and pestered me relentlessly for a year-long lease. Ended up being a wasted effort. The business never took off and the warehouse sat unused. Never thought this would actually come in handy. The warehouse is in a remote suburban area with few people around, and Kai would never come here anyway. Having the boss deliver the goods here is absolutely foolproof. After dealing with the cat situation, I planned to pick up some supplies in town before heading back. Following the GPS, I drove to the wholesale market where shelves were packed with everything imaginable. Try to pick items that are both affordable and healthy. I visited every wholesale market, farmers market, and bazaar that showed up on the navigation, purchased goods in small batches, loaded them into the van, then transported everything to storage. I drove back to Fengqing while shopping. Then continued my bulk buying spree at the wholesale market there. The final haul included 700 bags of salt, 500 bags of sugar, 30 portions each of various seasonings, 5 drums of soybean oil, 5 of olive oil, 10 each of peanut, corn, and rapeseed oil, plus 10 clay pots of homemade chili paste and fermented black beans, knowing fresh vegetables would be scarce during the apocalypse. I stocked 40 packs each of assorted dried fruits and dehydrated vegetable mixes, 30 cans each of milk powder, lotus root starch, and oatmeal, 30 large bags each of soy milk powder and cornmeal, 600 bags of rice, 200 g of flour, and 500 packs of 320g noodles, 100 caddies of dried shiitake mushrooms, 100 caddies of dried wood ear fungus, 200 packs of seaweed, 50 caddies of dried kelp, and 50 caddies of dried bean curd sticks. Purchased 125 cases of instant noodles in various flavors. After all these trips, I'm completely exhausted. Can't believe it's already 6 p.m., realizing I hadn't eaten lunch. I grabbed a jianbing from a street vendor before continuing with the shopping. I drove to Fengqing's East Market, which specializes in clothing and home goods. It was almost 7 p.m., yet many vendors were still keeping their stalls open. With my mask secured, I browsed around and haggled with vendors, scoring everything I needed at rock-bottom prices: 10 pairs of summer sandals, 15 pairs of slippers, 10 pairs of winter boots, 10 pairs of fleece-lined slippers, 100 pairs of summer socks, 50 pairs of thermal winter socks, 20 sets of thermal underwear, 20 undershirts, 100 briefs, 10 winter hats, 10 scarves, 10 cold-proof capes, 100 basic t-shirts, 50 assorted summer pants, 30 fleece winter pants, 20 cashmere sweaters, 20 down jackets, 10 single electric blankets, 5 double electric blankets, 10 bedsheet sets, 5 bamboo mats, 10 summer quilts, 10 winter quilts, 15 triple-person foot warmers, 10 000 disposable heat packs, since I had the bosses vacuum seal the quilts and winter coats. These items were light enough for me to easily store in the space. It was already 11:30 at night when I got home. The moment I opened the door, the little ones immediately swarmed around me, rubbing vigorously against my feet, patting Buddy's sturdy body and ruffling Mia's little head. I noticed both fur balls were purring a whole octave louder than usual after setting out food and water for my 2 cats. I immediately took a hot shower to wash off the day's sweat and grime. I cooked a pot of instant noodles loaded with bok choy, lettuce, and spinach as a treat for myself, while watching a heartwarming drama to go with my meal. With my 2 beloved cats by my side, this peaceful and wonderful life is something I want to hold on to tightly. 5. I was jolted awake by my phone ringing at 9 a.m. I wrestled my foot free from Buddy's weight and answered the out-of-town call. Turned out the pet factory owner had arranged overnight delivery of cat supplies to our warehouse. I remotely opened the warehouse door via my phone, rushed through my morning routine, and sped to the facility. The moment I stepped out of the car, I saw the boss approaching with a beaming smile. "Hey boss, perfect timing. Come take a look and check the inventory." I took the order sheet from the boss and cross-checked it against the warehouse stock. Everything was neatly organized and matched up almost perfectly. All good here. I promptly handed over the final payment. After confirming the boss and his entourage had left, I shut the warehouse door. I began systematically transferring items into the space, organizing them one by one. After placing the final item inside, I stepped into the space myself. I scanned every corner of the space. Nothing had changed except for the clock on the wall. The first time displayed on the wall matches exactly with my phone's current time. The second display has just started a 5-hour countdown, the final timer, which initially showed 000000, now displays 3:36:15. I suspect the second timer indicates my daily time allowance in this space, hence the 5-hour countdown. The third time slot refers to those unused 5 daily hours that become available. 3. I should be able to bank these hours. The save time will let me stay longer in the safe space when the apocalypse comes. Medications will undoubtedly become critical yet scarce resources during the end times. I spent the entire morning buying excessive amounts of medicine from various pharmacies under different pretexts, probably more than I'll ever need. I also stocked up on various Chinese herbal medicines for body conditioning and immunity boosting at the traditional pharmacy. While passing by the appliance mall, I picked up 10 freezers, 10 cooling fans, 10 electric kettles, 10 immersion heaters, 3 generators with 3 power banks, 10 hair dryers, 10 shoe dryers, 5 vacuum sealers, and 5,000 bags. Since the freezers were too bulky, I gave the store owner my warehouse address for delivery. After leaving the appliance mall, I drove straight to the wholesale market for daily necessities. I scouted several stores with the most comprehensive inventory, largest floor space, and substantial stock levels, all spaced far apart, then systematically selected goods, haggled, transported, and made payments. After multiple trips, purchases included 100 cases of toilet paper, 50 bags of laundry detergent, 100 bars of soap, 100 bars of scented soap, 50 sulfur soaps, 100 dish sponges, 20 steel wool pads, 20 toilet brushes, 1,000 lidded bowl sets, 20,000 plastic trash bags, 20 brooms, 10 mops, and 100 cleaning cloths. Also acquired 15 combs, 10 sets each of various kitchen knives, 3 woks, 5 spatulas, 50,000 candles, 10 flashlights, 60 packs of batteries, 50 tubes of toothpaste, 100 toothbrushes, 100 bottles of specialized shampoos, 50 bottles of conditioner, and 200 bottles of disinfectant. After payment, everything was transported into storage using the same batch-by-batch method. The appliances I bought this afternoon have arrived at the warehouse entrance. I remotely opened the warehouse door via my phone to facilitate unloading. After storing everything in the space, I went home to take Mia to the vet for spaying. I spent several hours waiting at the clinic keeping her company. My heart ached seeing her curled up in her bed wearing the cone after surgery, tears welling up in my eyes. But there was no choice in these apocalyptic times. We couldn't arrange for spaying earlier and had to do it now. After confirming Mia showed no complications at the clinic, I brought her home. It was already 9 p.m. by then, the moment I got home. I immediately prepared a nutritious meal for Mia and opened a recovery formula can to help her regain energy. Watching her sniff and then devour the food heartily put my mind at ease. Lying on the couch, I kept an eye on Mia's condition while frantically placing orders on my phone. 6. For days until the apocalypse, the handyman came to install my door today while supervising the work. I kept placing frantic orders on Pinduoduo using their buy now, pay later feature. My recent orders include 20 skincare sets, 1,000 packs of regular sanitary pads, 350 overnight pads, 200 extra long overnight pads, 100 pairs of period underwear, 30 pairs of sanitary shorts, 10 boxes of face masks, 1,000 disposable gloves, 30 pairs of rubber gloves, 30 jars of assorted jams, 5 pairs of night vision goggles, 3 high-definition telescopes, wood glue, super glue, hot melt adhesive, and 20 black trench coats, 5 metal baseball bats, 5 military shovels, 5 multi-tools, 20 dart practice sets, 1,000 throwing knives, 20 high-voltage anti-wolf devices, 20 pepper sprays, 100 metal door jammers, 10 chainsaws, 5 compound bows, 10,000 steel ball bearings, 30 10-tier 2-meter shelving units, 5 mini cameras, 10 high-capacity USB drives, 5 gas masks, 2 cases each of assorted breads, 10 cases of 8 treasure porridge, 200 packets each of 50 vegetable seed varieties including baby bok choy, crown daisy, lettuce, scallions, yumai greens, Shanghai greens, choy sum, pak choy, cilantro, celery, chives, loofah, etc. I deliberately use different shipping addresses and contact info for each online purchase. Though collecting packages becomes more cumbersome, it significantly reduces security risks. While frantically placing orders, I was simultaneously replying to Kai's Babe Cuddles texts and Iris's "this outfit is so hot" messages. Everything seemed normal. I had no clue about their secret schemes or the disgusting things they'd done after the apocalypse, after the workers finished. I inspected everything and paid the remaining balance once confirmed. Time has always been precious to me. After the workers left, I drove to the electronics market and picked up 2 used laptops, 5 refurbished tablets, and 3 brand new tablets. The freezer had arrived, so I could finally start stocking up on meat without hesitation. I drove around to different markets, buying modest amounts from each butcher stall. By the end, I'd accumulated 1,000 gene of pork, 400 gene each of mutton and beef, 500 gene of chicken, 400 gene of duck, 100 pre-cleaned fish, and 500 gene of assorted cured meats and sausages from various nearby markets, about 100 gene of assorted favorite fruits. I picked up some vegetables too, but kept the quantity in check since they take up space and don't last long. We've got land and seeds to grow our own anyway. Since I bought so much, one vendor even threw in a pair of chicks and rabbits as a bonus. I swung by to collect some early arrived packages before heading home. The moment I opened the door, Buddy came bounding over with his usual enthusiastic welcome. Mia lounged on her favorite couch, giving me a lazy tail flick. The canned food and nutritional meals had already been devoured. Hard to tell whether Mia or that glutton Buddy polished it off. I opened another recovery can for Mia. Mia sniffed the air and cautiously hopped off the couch, then eagerly gobbled up the food from the can. With lightning reflexes, I scooped up Buddy as he tried to sneak past and lifted him into my arms. "No, sweetie, your sister isn't feeling well, this is for her." Gave Buddy's plump, bouncy bottom an affectionate pat that chunky rump could rival a marshmallow, took out the meat I bought from storage and gave it a quick prep, then sorted everything and stored it in the freezer, for only noticed several unread WeChat messages when I finally plopped on the couch to rest. Click to check, it was Kai. Has Luna returned from her business trip? After scrolling through some meaningless pleasantries, I finally saw the bullshit he was trying to spew. Luna, Iris accidentally hit someone with her car the other day. They're demanding 500,000 right off the bat. We all know about Iris's situation. We're the only ones who can help her now. I did the math. Selling your parents' condo would cover Iris's troubles. We could even take a vacation with the leftover money, maybe put some aside. In my past life, I followed their advice and sold my house for $700K, only to end up homeless and forced to move into their shared apartment. The zombie outbreak hit right after I moved in. Kai and Iris dropped all pretense, flaunting their lovey-dovey hubby and wifey act in front of me daily. This time I'm wide awake. I've got 2 fur babies counting on me for protection. I'm never making that love-struck fool's mistake again. I'm not selling the house, and that's final. Fingers flew across the screen as I quickly composed and sent the message. What? That's serious? All right, I'll contact the agent today. Let me swing by to pick up my car first. It's such a hassle running errands without a car. They hesitated visibly when I asked for the car, but reluctantly agreed knowing how inconvenient paperwork would be without wheels. All right then, just remember to fill up the tank before returning it to me. I couldn't help but find it amusing. After lending him my car for so long, he started acting like it's his own, picked up my car and keys from Kai at his workplace, deftly dodging his flirtatious gestures before finally bidding him a reluctant farewell. Since Kai and Iris worked at the same company, they decided to become roommates after discussing it. They're both at work now, so the house is empty. I disabled all the tracking features in the car before driving to their apartment complex. With practiced ease, I retrieved the key from the vase and unlocked the door. The floor bore unmistakable signs of recent physical activity, installed mini cameras in several extremely concealed locations. After verifying the footage, I rummaged through their food supplies. Just a carton of milk, about 1-to-1, 5 kilograms of rice, 3 packs of instant noodles, and some bread. Without hesitation, I collected every last item into my storage space. I rummaged through the house and, oh my, found quite a few little raincoats tucked away in the wardrobe. Not a single one escaped my needle. I poked tiny holes in each and every one. Wouldn't it be more amusing to watch them struggle for survival in this post-apocalyptic world? After tampering with their door just slightly, I left that house brimming with memories of pain and despair. After picking up a dozen packages on my way, I got a phone call. It was a call from a used car dealership. "Hello, we spoke yesterday. Yes, I've got a car I can sell you for $100K. We can close the deal today." The deal was done in no time, and the $100K hit my account instantly. I walked into restaurant after restaurant with my last $100,000. Eventually, I'd ordered 100 portions of every dish I truly enjoyed. At breakfast joints, I'd buy every last pastry they had in stock. I spared no expense at my favorite street food stalls either. Thank goodness food doesn't spoil in the storage dimension, or my post-apocalyptic self would curse my current mindless hoarding spree. For the next 3 days, I just kept harvesting supplies and collecting delivery packages on repeat. I'd swing by every supermarket, farmer's market, and wholesale district to scavenge for overlooked essentials. Doomsday countdown. 1 day remaining after fetching the last package delivery. I closed the door. I took out 30 metal door stoppers from storage. Those little things were surprisingly tricky to install. It took me 2 full hours to get them all set up. Seeing those 25 sturdy door stoppers packed tightly across the door gave me an overwhelming sense of security. Scooping up Mia, who was nuzzling at my feet, I took a deep whiff of her fur. Phew, let's see who dares mess with us this time. Checking the time, we've got just over 20 hours before the zombie outbreak. I went to the kitchen, emptied all the cooked rice from 3 electric rice cookers into a stainless steel tub, then proceeded to rinse more rice and start new batches. Between rice cooking cycles, I spent my time stir-frying and stewing dishes. We need to prepare extra meals while people still have ingredients available, otherwise the cooking smells and sounds might give us away later. Constant boiling, endless frying, perpetual stewing. Thank goodness we bought enough ingredients. By the time I collapsed on the couch, completely exhausted, I'd already cooked 4 stainless steel buckets of rice, stir-fried 3 buckets of vegetables, and stewed 3 buckets of dishes. It was already 6 p.m. by then. I was dead tired, but I couldn't stop now. Even the toilet water needed to be collected in buckets. I went to the bathroom, stashed the full water bucket into my storage space, then took out a new one to continue collecting water. A massive queue of resources on the coffee table: novels, TV shows, movies, various books, medical literature, and videos were downloading in sequence. Whenever I lounge on the sofa, Mia patrols every corner of the house like a little scout. I often wonder if she sees me as an inattentive mother who needs her vigilant perimeter checks. Just thinking about it makes me feel so warm and fuzzy. The neutering recovery has been going really well. Buddy's a whole different story though. Ever since his neutering 6 months ago, he's become super clingy and developed quite the appetite. This 10-pound furball remains blissfully unaware of its own heft, currently purring away while crushing my chest. Talk about love with weight. After a good stretch post-nap, it's back to the kitchen for some serious sizzling and simmering. The apocalypse arrives in 3 hours. Woke up groggily in the morning. Snuggled Buddy under the blanket, all warm and cuddly. Scrolled through endless trending topics on my phone, no signs of zombies or apocalypse. Got a text from Kai asking about the house. I texted him back saying I'm on my way. With that, I stopped paying him any mind and got up to wash and dress. Last night before bed, I set the rice cooker to make 3 pots of black rice porridge. I ladled out a bowl to cool for later and poured the rest into a stainless steel container for storage. Sitting by the window, playing with my fur baby using a cat teaser while keeping an eye on the surroundings. Our windows have one-way tinted glass. As a kid, I used to get mad at my dad about this all the time. I blamed him for installing these windows that prevented me from interacting with kids in the opposite building. Now, this very same glass layer has become part of our security measures. The neighborhood showed no signs of anything unusual at the moment. People went about their daily routines, some heading to work, others to school. Stanley, the diligent security guard, stood watch at the gate, greeting everyone with a warm smile. He'd practically watched me grow up, and even helped search tirelessly after my parents disappeared. Watching him, my heart aches with sorrow. If zombies come, he'll undoubtedly be the first to face danger, but there's nothing to be done. I've decided to stop helping anyone. The apocalypse begins in 1 hour. For the past hour, I've been endlessly scrolling through the latest videos and updates. Suddenly, a video titled "Girl with Suspected Rabies Bites Passengers on Subway" popped up on my screen. The thumbnail showed a girl being tightly restrained by multiple people, with several bloodied individuals lying or sitting nearby. I clicked to get a clearer look, but it was quickly replaced with a video deleted notice, one after another. Similar messages surfaced only to vanish without making a ripple. I knew it, the apocalypse had arrived. To pass this agonizing stretch of time, I retrieved my backlog of packages from storage and began unboxing them, unpacking, sorting items, flattening boxes to bundle with twine. I methodically prepared everything before returning the materials to storage as future kindling. Just as I'd opened about 1/10 of the packages, screams suddenly erupted downstairs. Startled, my hand jerked violently and I nearly cut myself. I walked to the window to check what was happening outside. A couple stood at the residential gate, the man moving stiffly as he lunged to bite the woman. The girlfriend sat frozen on the side, completely motionless. Security guard Stanley shouted at the girl to get away while charging at the boyfriend with his riot shield, but Stanley was clearly outmatched by the now zombified boyfriend, who quickly overpowered and shoved him to the ground. The zombified boyfriend turned to bite his still-dazed girlfriend, only to be tackled from behind by Stanley, who had scrambled back up. "What are you waiting for? Run!" Stanley shouted at the panicked girlfriend. Jolted by Stanley's yell, the girlfriend snapped out of her daze, shuffling backward before turning to flee unsteadily, but Stanley behind her wasn't so fortunate. After struggling with the zombie, his strength gave out. The riot shield was pinned against his chest as the undead boyfriend tore a gaping wound in his neck. The crowd that rushed to help stood frozen in shock, staring in disbelief at Stanley convulsing on the ground while his zombified boyfriend nodded him. The girlfriend sobbed hysterically at the edge of the crowd. Brendan, it's me, Clara, don't you recognize me?" After feeding for a moment, the zombified boyfriend rose again, his face smeared with blood as he charged toward the terrified onlookers. Tear-streaked and screaming hoarsely, the girlfriend shoved through the armed crowd, accusing the defensive bystanders with desperate fury. "What the hell are you doing? Brendan wouldn't hurt you. What's with the bats and clubs? I swear I'll call the cops on you for assault." Assault. The girlfriend spun around in shock just as her zombie boyfriend sank his teeth into her neck. A spray of warm blood spluttered across her face. The girlfriend collapsed limply as her former lover savored the taste of her flesh. Behind them, Stanley rose in a grotesque posture and began gnawing at the girl's leg. Stanley, the security guard's wife burst out from the crowd, only to be firmly restrained by bystanders. The crowd hastily retreated, pulling shut the residential gate to isolate the compound from those outside. Everything happened in a flash. I drew the curtains and poured myself a glass of water from the dispenser, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I thought I wouldn't be scared if I tried again. Turns out I'm still terrified. Just as I was regaining my composure, Kai called. I cleared my throat and answered the call. Luna, how's it going? What's the asking price for the house? Seems like the zombie outbreak news hasn't reached him yet. Kai, my voice trembled uncontrollably. Kai, there were people with rabies attacking others right in front of me. I'm hiding now. Kai, come save me please. I'm so scared. Kai, I think they're about to find me. After delivering these lines, I set the phone aside and crumpled nearby cardboard scraps to mimic flesh-tearing sounds, punctuated with occasional pained whimpers. Kai kept asking what's wrong, repeatedly, but after getting no response from me for a long time, he eventually hung up the phone. The moment the call ended, I immediately turned on the computer monitor. Everything was connected there, including the cameras installed in their house. Iris coquettishly snuggled up to Kai, batting her big, manipulative doe eyes while speaking in a distinctly displeased tone. Kai, what did she mean by that? Kai took a drag of his cigarette while groping Iris's thigh. No idea. Weird. Let me call her again to check. The phone on the table kept vibrating, but this time I wasn't going to answer his call. I'd completely lost interest in opening packages by this point, scrolling through my phone by the window. I kept watching the unfolding chaos outside. The horde of zombies outside our compound had swollen to 20 or 30 strong. Nearly every passerby fell victim to them. The neighborhood's WeChat group exploded with activity as everyone discussed the recent incident. Most dismissed it as a mutated strain of rabies and didn't take it seriously, grumbling about the property management's decision to temporarily lock down the complex. A few members sensed apocalyptic undertones and urged others to stockpile supplies in the group chat. But messages scrolled by too quickly. These warnings were drowned out in the flood of complaints against the property managers before gaining traction. I sighed quietly to myself, exiting WeChat. I scrolled through videos hoping to learn about situations in other regions. I came across several videos tagged zombie or rabies, but they kept getting mysteriously taken down before I could watch them properly. In the kitchen, I cooked several pots of rice and stir-fried multiple batches of dishes. No matter how much I stockpile these essential supplies that give me a sense of security, it never feels like enough. Day 3 of the zombie outbreak, I stored the filled water bucket from the toilet into my dimensional space and took out a new one to replace it. I've stopped cooking stir-fries altogether. During this time, I kept watching out the window and saw many familiar faces, frustrated by the property management's lockdown. Over 20 residents banded together and forced open the sealed gates past midnight, overpowering the security guards. In the end, they all became fresh recruits for the zombie horde. Their families witnessed everything, and soon the entire neighborhood echoed with wails of grief. Some brave souls rushed out to confront the zombies in desperate attempts to save their infected family members, only to end up joining the undead horde themselves. After witnessing these tragic outcomes, no one dared to act recklessly anymore. The shattered residential gate couldn't be repaired, allowing hordes of zombies to flood in and roam the compound freely. Kai kept calling me repeatedly, but I never picked up. From their conversation on the surveillance feed, it seems they assumed I'd been devoured by zombies on the very first day. That was exactly my intention, but they're having a rough time of it. They thought they had enough supplies stocked up, so they didn't rush to hoard provisions initially. They only realized they'd completely run out of food when it was time to eat. This led to a heated argument between the two. The security footage showed Kai and Iris constantly typing on their phones before heading out. Soon they returned with a plastic bag containing a few pounds of rice, likely purchased from a neighbor. Their relationship is still going strong. Quickly cooked the rice, added some seasoning, and devoured it with delight. Then with a full stomach came lustful thoughts, taking out the torn from the wardrobe. The rest was too much to bear. Even the delicious meal in my hands lost its appeal. Covered the screen with a rag to spare my fur baby's delicate eyes. I laid thick soundproof padding across the floor. The slightly cool weather seemed perfect for my 2 fur balls, who kept rolling on the padding and flashing their bellies to them. Nothing's changed in this world, except I no longer leave home every day. After quietly patrolling around, Mia came back and curled up beside me, contentedly grooming herself. Buddy kept circling and sniffing around the foam roller, pawing at the spot where I usually keep the cat teaser. He absolutely loves batting that cat teaser around in that corner. The jingling sound of the cat teaser was too conspicuous, so I stashed it in my storage space on the second day of the apocalypse to avoid drawing unwanted attention. Walked over and scooped Buddy onto my lap. Giving him comforting pets, he fell asleep purring almost instantly. Day 15 of the apocalypse. My daily routine involves scouting outside, monitoring those toxic X's, tracking zombie numbers, playing with my fur baby, studying survival guides, and practicing with my compound bow. Compared to my past life, the structured routine I have now feels almost surreal. I check our neighborhood WeChat group daily, watching the growing anxiety in the chat. Residents are furious at the property management's inaction. Nothing's been done since the gate was breached. Most households are now running critically low on supplies. Could anyone spare a bag of rice for my family? I can pay 1,000 yuan, 1,000 yuan. That's too low. Maybe I'd consider it for 10,000 yuan, 10,000 yuan. Good grief, are you trying to rob me? Does anyone have fever medicine? My child has had a fever for 2 days. Could any kind soul share some medicine? Many people in these messages were calling for group supply runs. Several groups went scavenging, but only the last few returned with meager supplies. Most residents preferred bartering within the compound over risking their lives outside. Night fell quickly. I've always played dead, never responding to anyone's messages, so even though the power's still on, I won't risk turning on the lights. After wiping myself down with wet wipes early, I used my phone's dim light to call my 2 fur babies to bed. Buddy and Mia followed me into the room. I quietly closed the bedroom door and snuggled up with them, drifting off to sleep in the warmth. A piercing scream jolted me awake at midnight, followed by sounds of a scuffle and continuous wailing. After calming the frightened Mia, I tiptoed back to the living room and peered through the telescope at the window. The commotion came from the 4th floor of the opposite building. With all lights blazing, I could see everything happening inside clearly. This household originally ran a grocery store and had stockpiled massive supplies. They'd frequently post photos of their hoarded goods in the neighborhood chat, then sell them at inflated prices. But tonight, when everyone's guard was down, they got raided by 2 other desperate families who'd run out of supplies. Within minutes, the place was cleaned out. The whole family sat wailing on the floor. The 2 raiding families had already made their getaway, staring at the security door already barricaded with 25 door stoppers. I pondered for a moment before retrieving a large quantity of thumbtacks from my dimensional storage. 7. I meticulously scattered the thumbtacks across the floor from the entrance to the living room. Then I strategically placed more tacks near all potential entry points like windows. Only after completing these defensive measures could I finally retreat to my bedroom and sleep soundly. When I woke up in the morning, I went through all the group messages as usual, especially the neighborhood group chat. Many people were discussing what happened last night. Everyone was comforting the burglarized family and condemning the thieves, but I could sense strong envy and schadenfreude in their words. 1 month into the apocalypse, I've kept every inch of the space as land productive. My morning routine begins with tending vegetables and caring for the baby rabbits and chicks inside the space. Buddy and Mia were chasing each other around playfully nearby. Compared to the oppressive environment outside, it felt like a peaceful pastoral life inside the space. Before the 3-hour limit expired, the human and 2 cats exited the space, perched by the window. I kept watch for any suspicious movements outside while painfully studying medical texts by the sliver of light sneaking through the curtains. The phone's vibration startled me. When I picked it up, it was actually Kai calling. He hadn't called or texted me since last time when he thought I'd been killed by zombies. What could be the reason for the sudden call? I immediately checked the surveillance footage. Kai, I'm absolutely certain she's still alive. She must have stockpiled supplies and gone into hiding. Kai, you've got to believe me. Iris's face was bruised in several places, her frame noticeably thinner. Gone was her former plump, healthy figure. Their meager food supply ran out just days after the apocalypse began. After several bartering attempts, everyone was in the same dire situation. Few were willing to trade. Only a handful of courageous men managed to scavenge some supplies, relying on teamwork and sheer physical endurance. Those scumbags have been surviving solely on the compensation Iris earned by selling her body. Kai has developed a much more ruthless edge. The law's grip on people is loosening by the day. Some have resorted to extreme measures to secure supplies, and Kai happens to be one of them. Is that really true? Iris snapped angrily. Absolutely. Otherwise, why would she refuse to celebrate her birthday? Why wouldn't she sell the house and move here sooner? Trust me. That damn woman must have stockpiled a ton of food and is feasting right now. As Iris kept ranting, Kai remained skeptical. His eyes grew wild with excitement as he saw the calling display on his phone. My heart sank. Oh no. I noticed the problem too. The fact that the call went through means the phone still has battery. It's been a month since my death. My phone should have run out of battery long ago. The fact that it's still charged means I'm not really dead. My fists clenched as I stared fixedly at the phone screen. Then after a moment, I laughed. Fine, so you found me. Let's see if you've got what it takes to face me. Even if you make it here, we'll see who's really calling the shots. Kai gripped a collapsible baton, flicked it open with a sharp motion, then ran his fingers along its length thoughtfully. Meanwhile, Iris dialed her regular clients' numbers, ready to call in reinforcements. Luckily, their apartment was just on the 2nd floor. Need backup. I can call for reinforcements too. The two fully armed figures had already moved some distance after opening the door. I seized the moment and pressed the button in my hand. The festive tune of Good Fortune Comes exploded through the air. The sudden turn of events startled the pair. The nearby zombies reacted with alarming speed, converging on their location. Kai and Iris hastily retreated into the house. They barely made it in time, just as the zombies' claws were about to grab Iris from behind. The two dashed back inside. With a thunderous bang, the door slammed shut, separating the howling undead from the terrified pair now safely inside. Iris was too petrified to speak. Nobody could have predicted that a random song would start playing at this moment. Kai's eyes burned with pure malice. Well, so you're not dead after all. You've been playing me. That move just gave away my position. Can't believe these two are still alive after that. No matter. I've got all the time in the world to play this game with you. Iris's unusual behavior has me concerned. Could it be? Did she also get reborn? 2 months into the apocalypse, I thought for sure Kai and Iris would come running the moment they realized I was still alive, but after luring zombies to block them a few times with my old tricks, nothing happened for nearly 2 weeks, just some shady deals with the supply kingpin in our building. Never dropping my guard. I kept up daily surveillance like clockwork, stuffed from lunch in my hideout. I lazily scanned the surroundings through my binoculars. The zombies are getting smarter. From just wandering around buildings at first, they've now learned to climb stairs and mimic human speech. Without courage, weapons, or companions, people dare not even open their doors to trade or scavenge for supplies, terrified of rounding a corner straight into a zombie. Only organized teams manage to bring back supplies from outside. The neighborhood chat has gone quiet. Many have simply vanished without a trace. Some speculated they starved to death. Others thought they opened the door to zombies. And a few believed they jumped from the building one night. Oh my God. I just heard something on the radio. A piece of news caught everyone's attention. What news? Someone immediately asked. The signal kept cutting out. But I think they said there'll be an airdrop at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Really? Seriously? That's amazing. The group chat instantly lit up with excitement. The supplies arrived right on schedule the next day. A helicopter dropped numerous packages over the residential area before hastily flying away. The packages lay piled on the ground, yet strangely, no one came forward to claim them, after what felt like an eternity. A trash bag came hurtling down from an apartment unit. Bang. Landing with a heavy thud on the flower bed below. As expected, the zombies lurking near the supplies began swarming toward Building 1. Seeing it worked, the man kept tossing down bag after bag of trash. The door of Building 3 behind the supplies creaked open as a fully armored man, wrapped head to toe, tiptoed to the stockpile, snatched 6 or 7 bags, and darted back inside. Soon after, several more trash bags came raining down from Building 3, with the zombies distracted by the noise. A man emerged from Building 1. The man tiptoed away with 5 or 6 bags of supplies. Seeing their success, others quickly followed suit. The situation immediately descended into chaos. The supplies were snatched up in no time. Every cloud has a silver lining. Some danced with joy after securing supplies. Others beat their chests in frustration after narrowly missing out. The unluckiest didn't even make it past the doorway before becoming zombie chow. I suppose grabbing supplies in full public view might actually be a hidden risk, but when supplies run dangerously low, desperate measures become unavoidable. Just as expected, the neighborhood chat erupted with hostile arguments. Those who missed out are now aggressively persuading the lucky ones to share their supplies. 8 outright threats. In the dead of night, half asleep, I seemed to hear screams, wails, and the sounds of smashing. I got up to check what was happening. 5 families who'd secured supplies during the day were burglarized by multiple intruders that night. An entire family was slaughtered. Women from 3 households were violated. 1 family fought desperately to the end. The surviving husband leaped from the balcony clutching his wife and child's lifeless bodies. Though the home invaders escaped with substantial loot, their numbers were decimated by zombies during their retreat. I kept counting my blessings for this second chance. Fully stocked supplies in a fortress-like safe haven. Having my furry companion by my side gives me strength. It was a restless night's sleep. For months into the apocalypse, the neighborhood has been without water and electricity for a while now. The internet connection gradually deteriorated before cutting out completely. These disruptions haven't affected me too much. The main inconveniences are losing contact with group chats and the outside world, plus having to use plastic bags for bathroom needs. Life goes on, and I still maintain my daily routine of exercise, practicing with a compound bow, and studying medical and pharmaceutical knowledge. I thought today would be another quiet day, until there came a knock at the door, instead of the toxic men and women I was prepared for. An unexpectedly gentle visitor arrived, after knocking for a while with no response. The person outside lowered their voice and said, "Hello, I mean no harm." They seemed certain someone was inside the house. They continued, "You're alone here, aren't you? I just moved in. I live right below you. The sound is faint, but I can just make out some clattering noises coming from your place. I mean no harm, I'm alone too. I just want to form an alliance with you. If you ever change your mind or run into trouble, Just knock 3 times on your stool leg, I'll come help. Spoken with genuine sincerity and heartfelt emotion, clutching my compound bow, I stared coldly at the doorway. The voices outside fell silent, followed by the sound of retreating footsteps. I crouched by the door for what felt like ages, making sure they were truly gone. In the following days, a few zombies began gathering at my door, howling and occasionally slamming against it. I teleported the couch into storage and back out, silently positioning it to barricade the doorway. The zombies' howls still sent chills down my spine. I kept my distance to avoid detection at all costs. That guy downstairs would always show up right after the zombies left my door, then left behind a few gentle words of comfort. By the 5th day of this standoff, the man's patience had clearly worn thin. From gentle knocks to forced entry attempts, from soft-spoken pleas to vicious threats, the door held firm. Strangely enough, no zombies appeared during this time. After some thought, I realized there must be many accomplices. They didn't last long outside before leaving again. I planned to keep watch tonight. Just as expected, I noticed something unusual at 4 a.m. The metallic clang of the outer iron gate signaled they'd resorted to brute force. I'm dying. Someone help. I know where to find stockpiled supplies. My feeble voice barely carried through the double doors. What? Say again. Hearing the noise, the person outside perked up and pressed their ear hard against the door. Rustling sounds came from behind as faint whispers reached me. It seemed many others were crowding closer. I kept speaking softly while timing it perfectly, then yanked the wall-embedded switch with sudden force. Without mercy, I cranked the power to maximum. Crackle pop, The moment I flipped the switch, the buzz of electricity and waves of screams erupted, followed by the sickening scent of charred flesh. I slid the switch back into place, ears straining for sounds beyond the door. The howls of zombies are rapidly approaching. 9 heavy, dragging footsteps hauled outside my door, followed by the sickening sounds of flesh being torn and chewed. Muffled moans of agony punctuate the gruesome feast. Then the footsteps fade into the distance, and silence reclaims the night. I've been on edge the entire day. Day 135 of the apocalypse, finally reunited with an old friend after all this time. A fully armed group wielding cleavers and axes. Several of them were actually wearing iron armor. A dozen people advanced in perfect formation. They dispatched the approaching zombies with practiced efficiency. In moments, they slipped quietly through the breached compound gate. Look at their path. They're heading straight toward my apartment building. As they got closer, 2 of them struck me as oddly familiar. I quickly grabbed my binoculars. Well, after all this waiting, my old acquaintances finally showed up. The playboy and the gold digger have changed a lot. Kai was as thin as a monkey, dressed in tattered clothes, with several long scars now marring his once handsome face. In comparison, Iris looked much better. Her previously gaunt face had filled out, and she was now affectionately clinging to the scarred man in iron armor beside her, dainty and delicate like a little bird. After all this training, I'm confident I can handle it. Run through all my trusty weapons. Especially the compound bow I've been practicing with daily. After all those people entered the hallway, I launched the drone from the bathroom window, piloted it straight into the corridor, then activated the low-frequency noise that drives zombies wild. Setting the drone to hover, I took position by the door and waited in silence. Sure enough, the sound of several people outside soon reached our ears. Boss, this is the place. That damn bitch actually dared to mess with me, Kai spat viciously. Yeah, look at how this door's installed. Iris chimed in with her syrupy, ingratiating tone. Not bad, not bad. This could actually work as our base. What are you waiting for? Pry the damn door open. Hearing the telltale scratching of someone picking the lock, I immediately electrified the door. Arg, came a pained scream. What's going on? It's live, boss. The door's electrified. Someone outside immediately panicked. Electricity. Perfect timing, isn't it? Toby, you go. Not willing. What? Forgetting about your starving little brother. Hearing the door being pried open again, I didn't hesitate to crank the power to maximum. Thinking this was pointless, I simply called out, "Hey fellas, I'll open up. I'm opening the door." Release the door stoppers one by one before opening the door. Proceed until only the final electrified gate remains. Hey sweetheart, open the damn door properly. Bro, 10, Luna. The big guy and Kai spoke simultaneously. That shameless bastard Kai even tried to sidle up to me with something to say. I find it disgusting and refuse to speak with him. Reveals the hand holding a cocked compound bow hidden behind the door. Take aim, fire, thwip. In an instant, Kai's words were cut short as I blew his head off. Twitching on the ground, blood gushed rhythmically from the gaping wound in his skull. Everything happened too suddenly. Iris's scream pierced through the silent hallway with jarring intensity. Are you trying to get us killed? You'll bring the zombies down on us. The gang leader reacted swiftly, backhanding Iris with a slap that sent her reeling. You refuse the toast but accept the punishment. Get them. He yanked a bystander to use as a human shield. These men were neighborhood troublemakers even before the apocalypse. But now they've descended into outright murder and pillaging. With that thought, I steeled my resolve, better to deal with them now before they harm other survivors struggling to make it. Seizing their moment of hesitation, I steadied my compound bow and unleashed a volley. Screams erupted in waves. Amid the chaos, a familiar roar cut through the din. Immediately shut all doors and listened for movement outside. The pained moans gave way to desperate wails. The ordeal lasted a full half hour. Even if someone in the hallway escaped my gunfire earlier, it doesn't matter now. The low-frequency hum from the drone drew every zombie in the building. The only exit was blocked. No one could escape alive. Nobody poses any threat to my safety. The 5th month of the apocalypse. The days are getting colder. Cradling a steaming bowl of freshly cooked noodles, I'm curled up on the sofa wrapped in blankets with my feet resting on a cozy electric heater. The kittens are snuggled up against me obediently. The streets below are swarming with zombies. It's been ages since I've seen another living soul outside. No one disturbs me anymore. The neighborhood is eerily quiet, with nothing but the moans of zombies and the howling wind breaking the silence. The stillness is terrifying. It often feels like this place no longer belongs to the world of the living. The supply helicopters came twice, then vanished without a trace. It feels like this neighborhood has been forgotten by the world. I deeply regret not buying a radio. Now I'm completely cut off from outside news. The oppressive atmosphere became unbearable, so I cut my reconnaissance short and teleported back to my safe space, deciding to take the day off. The moment I returned to my sanctuary, the weight lifted from my chest, lounging lazily on the couch, tucked under a blanket with my feet in the foot warmer, pure bliss. Feeling completely safe in this cozy space, I soon drifted off to sleep. The 2 furballs were carefree as can be. They dashed straight to the patio upon entering, chasing after the chicks and bunnies. Mia waited until I woke up before bringing her little ball, begging me to play with her. Meanwhile, Buddy got hungry and started tugging at my sleeve, leading me to his food bowl. Absolutely adorable. All the negative effects from my solo reconnaissance mission instantly melted away. The 6th month of the apocalypse. Today is New Year's Eve, a time for family reunions. What used to be a lively and heartwarming occasion now feels unbearably bleak and desolate. I thought this day would be just like any other. To our surprise, the long-absent helicopter arrived with supplies. Crate after crate of supplies were airdropped. Faintly, we could hear, "Hold on, everyone, hope is coming. The day will come when we meet again under the sun. Happy New Year." I felt a stirring in my heart. Our country never abandoned us after all. His voice abruptly cut off. There are still people fighting hard for our beautiful reunion in the future. The helicopter came in haste and left just as quickly. I stared intently at that pile of supplies. I longed to see a figure appear, to know I wasn't alone here. Finally, a window creaked open, a trash bag came flying down, then another, and another. A slight figure emerged from the neighboring building, swiftly gathering supplies before retreating. After a brief pause, garbage bags started raining down from the opposite direction. With the zombies lured away, 2 people hastily grabbed armfuls of supplies and bolted in the opposite direction. Once, twice, 3 times, supplies were running dangerously low. No internet, no communication. Even those who might have been at each other's throats in the group chat were now covering for one another in silent understanding. The pace gradually slowed as the last remaining supplies lay untouched on the ground. When my gaze inadvertently followed their line of sight to that building, I raised my binoculars. Sure enough, on one of the floors, a window stood ajar. 2 children stared anxiously at the pile of supplies. The wind had chapped their gaunt cheeks crimson. My rational mind told me to stay hidden, unseen by anyone, yet my body moved as if possessed, hauling bag after bag of long-accumulated trash to the windowsill. My hand pressed against the window as I took a deep breath, steeling my resolve. With a firm push, the long-sealed window swung open effortlessly. A frigid gust burst through the window, carrying snowflakes that sent shivers down my spine. I spent what felt like ages tossing garbage bags out the window, too afraid to look down or pause. After disposing all the trash, I turned to the supplies only to find the space completely empty. I immediately looked toward the building in the distance. The boy beamed with joy. Surrounded by piles of supplies. 11. The girl waved at me cheerfully. The biting wind lashed at my face as I thought I heard a girl's voice. "Thank you, sister, thank you." I hastily shut the window in a fluster. I recognized that little girl. She's the guardian angel for stray cats in our neighborhood. Her once round face is now gaunt as if chiseled by a knife. I wonder how that kind-hearted grandmother by her side is doing. The 7th month of the apocalypse. The number of zombies in the neighborhood has significantly decreased lately. Seemingly moving with purpose toward a certain direction, only a scattered dozen or so zombies remain, aimlessly shuffling about. Many seize this opportunity to bring back substantial supplies. It seems things are looking up, until 24 strangers entered the neighborhood. They were dressed head to toe, many wearing makeshift metal armor, axes, machetes, batons, even hunting rifles, moving with lethal coordination. They cleared the surrounding zombies in mere moments, without a word. They entered the apartment building nearest to the residential complex's main gate. My gut told me these weren't ordinary people. I hid behind the curtains, binoculars glued to the unfolding scene. Sure enough, they began kicking down doors one by one, looting supplies. They didn't stop until sunset. By then half the apartment building had been ransacked. I couldn't see anything beyond that. I've got a bad feeling about this. We might be heading into a major battle soon. Thankfully, I live on the top floor. It should take them a while to reach me. After confirming it was completely safe outside, I opened the door again. The hallway was pitch black, but I didn't dare turn on my flashlight. I pulled out the night vision goggles from my storage and scattered hundreds of thumbtacks across the stairwell like they were free. Over 2 days, many residents in the neighborhood banded together to resist. But after 2 gunshots took down their leaders, everyone backed down in fear. They traced it to my building soon enough. Thankfully, it was getting dark. Our first line of defense might just work. Through the door, I heard the sound of laughter and playful banter echoing in the hallway. They're coming any second now. Pressed against the door, I listened to the noises outside. Phew, bro. Finally the last floor. That clown nearly killed me. Damn right. Every time it's a high floor they call us to. Screw that. They really think we're pushovers. Yeah, the voices grew closer. Bro, what's wrong? Ouch, ouch, ouch. Damn it. It's an ambush. A rapid metallic clanging sounded before the door was violently kicked in. Without hesitation, I yanked down the power switch. The screams trailed off into weak whimpers, leaving only pained moans. The other guy ran off, probably to get reinforcements. I swung the door open and stared coldly at the writhing figure on the ground, drew my bow and took the headshot. These bastards had 2 shotguns between them. In a straight fight, my bow wouldn't stand a chance, and they'd bust through that door eventually. In that case, take the initiative and strike first. With night vision goggles on and athletic wear, everything around me became crystal clear. Under the cover of darkness, I concealed myself in the shadowy utility room between stairwells. This is the only passage leading to the rooftop. Someone arrived shortly. A dozen shadowy figures ascended by the dim light of their leader's single candle. 2 of them were carrying firearms. I trailed behind the last man. A cold blade flashed as I slit his throat. I clamped my hand over his mouth to muffle any sound that might alert others. Using the same method, I took out another one. It wasn't until the 3rd man that they realized something was wrong. This black outfit is my ultimate camouflage. I ducked into the shadowy stairwell and opened fire on the panicked crowd. 12, thwip, thwip, fired a volley and retreated without hesitation. Bang bang. The spot I'd just vacated got lit up by gunfire. I climbed up the fire escape and quietly crept up behind them. The gunman's figure suddenly loomed large before me. Sensing something, he turned around only to see a dark shadow. Whoosh, thud, blood splattered everywhere. Behind you, the crowd scattered, but to my eyes, they were just moving targets. This might be the most sinful day of my life. I broke the last man's leg. Watching him limp back to their den, I smirked. Go on, hurry back. Hope you'll like this gift. Quickly returned to my house, locked the door, and changed out of the blood-stained ninja suit. I picked up the binoculars and scanned the apartment building across the street. Just as expected, the bait successfully drew out the remaining targets. The moment was ripe. So I pressed the button. What a fine day it is. Jubilant music erupted through the air, shattering the city's deathly silence. The sudden blast of music left the people downstairs stunned. What the hell? What's going on? Damn mutt, you're gonna get us killed. Shut it off now, boss. The button's jammed. We can't turn it off. Fuck him. Smash it. Just smash the damn thing. The portable speaker was quickly destroyed, cutting off the blaring music abruptly. But all that greeted them was a horde of zombies doubling back toward the noise. The commotion downstairs was lively enough, if you could call the bloodbath a scene of activity. 1 year and 5 months into the apocalypse, the supply convoy arrived again. Only this time it came in armored vehicles. Soldiers in uniform moved with practiced coordination, each shot finding its mark in the heads of the swarming zombies. Brains splattered everywhere, reeking of putrid decay. The soldiers piled up the zombies haphazardly, then raised a banner facing the apartment complex. The government has established safe zones. Come with us to safety. These words shone like a beacon of hope for the survivors. The long wait finally gave way to hope. People supported each other as they emerged from the shadows into sunlight, basking freely in the warmth of the sun. I saw many familiar faces. The little angel girl and her brother were helping their grandmother, Auntie Yang, and Uncle Zhang selling jianbing at the neighborhood entrance. Little skateboarder Guigua and his mom, that low-key couple I've been shipping for ages. The soldiers went door to door, knocking on each apartment to ensure no one was left behind. Should I go? I asked myself. Should I walk with them in the sunlight? Or stay guarding this house? I guess I'm just being selfish. I gathered various seeds from the storage and packed them all into a bag. Then I opened the door and tossed the bag outside. After a moment's thought, I turned back and slipped a note inside, then returned to the space station to have dinner with the little rascals. No matter what, living here means Buddy Mia and I will always be safe. With so many people at the safe base, I can't guarantee the secret won't be discovered someday. I can't take any chances. In the stairwell. A soldier was panting as he knocked door to door to ensure no one was left behind. When he reached the 28th floor, he was startled to find a bag placed outside a resident's door. The bag was completely dust-free. To his surprise, it was packed with vegetable seeds. God knows how scarce vegetable supplies were at their base. Just as he raised his hand to knock in gratitude, a note caught his eye. He unfolded it to find elegant handwriting. 13. Hello, if the outside world ever becomes completely safe, would you come knock 9 times at my door? After feasting to my heart's content in the space and playing an extended game of chase with Buddy Mia, I finally emerged satisfied. By then, the soldiers and gathered residents had all left the neighborhood. The few who chose to stay received enough supplies to last them quite a while if rationed carefully. I cautiously opened the door to find the bag by the entrance had indeed vanished. A note slipped through the door crack and fluttered down by my feet. I bent down to pick it up, written in shaky but deliberate strokes. It says, "Okay, the apocalypse. Who knows how long it's been, other than spending extra time peering out the window and observing. My days are mostly about letting Buddy and Mia out to play. Otherwise, I'm tending to the vegetable patch and feeding the animals in the space." Life was peaceful and comfortable that day. I was showering my little one with kisses on the couch when sudden footsteps outside startled me. I quickly stashed the 2 fur balls back into my space and armed myself with a compound bow. Cautiously approaching the door, I listened intently for any movement outside. The footsteps outside stopped, and I heard heavy breathing. Then, thud, the door was gently knocked. Knock, 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 exactly 9 knocks in total. I stared blankly out the window as sunlight streamed in. Story 2. After inheriting the fortune, I burned myself 100 trillion hell banknotes. My aunt's family failed to scam me out of money and called me a lunatic, yet only I knew that 1 month later, the gates between the human world and the underworld would open. The existing monetary system collapsed overnight, and hell banknotes became the universal currency. In my past life, I was tortured and killed by my aunt's family for money. In this life, with trillions of hell banknotes at my disposal, I remained spotless while watching them turn on each other. 1. I died. 3 days ago, I spent my last hell banknote to save my aunt's family. After my parents passed away, I treated my aunt's family as my only relatives, yet, they brutally tortured and killed me for a mere 100 hell banknotes. A month ago, the gates between the human world and the underworld were opened, and ferocious ghosts overnight took over the human realm. The old monetary system collapsed, and only hell banknotes could be exchanged for supplies. But why would normal people burn paper money for themselves while still alive? So the fierce ghost opened a bank where you could exchange body parts for underworld currency. After rescuing my aunt's family, they unceremoniously took over my house. Upon learning I was already bankrupt, they even set their sights on me. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself tightly bound by them, to keep the parts fresh. They dismembered me for a full day and night. The torment only ended when my head was finally severed. I died filled with hatred, never expecting heaven would grant me a second chance. Checking my phone, I see the apocalypse arrives in 1 month. I had just inherited the fortune at this time. My usually indifferent aunt suddenly clung to me like a parasite. In my past life, I couldn't see people's true intentions and actually treated them as my only family. However, having experienced the cruel apocalypse, I had long seen through their hypocritical nature. Seeing their hypocritical concern, I could only feel nauseated, but thinking of the impending apocalypse, I suppressed the resentment in my heart. The most important thing now is to hoard spirit money. As for these parasites, I want to see what fate awaits them in this lifetime without my desperate efforts to save them. 2. After my parents passed away, they left me an inheritance of 3 million. It won't be long before this money turns into worthless scraps of paper. I must hurry and exchange it all for spirit money before the apocalypse comes. After all, only the hell money burned before the apocalypse can be used after it. Opening the shopping app, bundles of hell money printed with the Bank of Heaven and Earth cost just 1 yuan each. Incredibly cheap. However, looking at the denominations, I found myself in a dilemma. After the apocalypse, the highest denomination of hell money in circulation is only 100. In my past life, I personally witnessed someone flaunting wealth with $1 million hell note. The next second, they were torn apart on the street by a fierce ghost checking the money. I sent the purchase requirements and amounts to different merchants one by one. Some customer service representatives replied that they couldn't accept the order, but more often they took me for a scammer. After all, no normal person would buy 3 million in hell banknotes at once, and only in 100 denomination bills. It wasn't until midnight that a customer service representative finally took the order. Only the inventory was insufficient, and making new ones would take time. Can you be ready within 30 days? After a long silence from the other side, the reply finally came, yes. But our family's spirit money costs 3 yuan per bundle, with 100 sheets per bundle, though slightly pricey. The quality is guaranteed, I gasped, feeling a sharp pang of distress. This is 3 times more expensive than other stores, but time was pressing, leaving me no room to choose carefully. I gritted my teeth and paid 30% of the deposit in one go. Then I contacted the incineration plant and had the boss deliver the goods directly there, seeing how readily I paid. The boss beamed with delight and repeatedly promised to deliver quality work. With the boss's assurance, my anxious heart finally settled. Just as I finished dealing with the spirit money issue, my phone rang urgently like a death knell. Opening it, sure enough, it was Auntie. As soon as the call connected, my aunt started playing the emotional card. With your parents gone, we're family now, I scoffed, feeling a wave of disgust. Seeing she was about to exploit my parents' memory again, I coldly cut her off. Speak quickly if you have something to say, I want to sleep. There was a pause on the other end of the line, followed by faint muttering. After a long silence, she finally spoke resentfully. Your cousin is getting married soon, but the housing situation still hasn't been settled. I sneered inwardly. The scene was all too familiar. In my past life, as soon as my aunt learned I inherited the estate, she immediately called to borrow money. At that time, I was still immersed in the grief of losing my parents, hearing my aunt sell her emotions. I really thought she treated me as family. I tried so hard to be good to them, but what did I get in the end? Taking my parents' inheritance wasn't enough for them. They even wanted to use my house as my cousin's wedding home. If the apocalypse hadn't suddenly arrived, I might have already been kicked out, and when the apocalypse came, they brutally dismembered me for just 100 hell coins. Thinking of this, I suppressed my anger and interrupted my aunt. I don't have money. My aunt immediately raised her voice. How could you possibly have no money? Your father left you 3 million. What does a young girl like you need so much money for? Celeste, we're family. How can you be so cold? Is this how your parents taught you to behave? Seeing her dare to mention my parents, I shouted angrily, apparently frightened by me. Auntie stayed silent for a long while. I sneered at my phone. I spent all the money on joss paper. Believe it or not, after saying that, I immediately hung up the phone. At dawn the next day, my aunt's family was already blocking the doorway. I deliberately left them waiting outside. Only when they were sweating from the heat did I leisurely let them in. My cousin rolled her eyes the moment she saw me. Then, as if entering her own home, she flopped onto the sofa and scolded me. Are you deaf? You didn't even hear such loud knocking. Hurry up and get me some water to drink. I picked up the cold tea nearby and splashed it directly onto her face. My cousin let out a scream and sprang to her feet in one swift motion. I slapped away her hand that was pointing at me. If you keep shouting in my house again, what pours on you next will be boiling water. No matter how domineering my cousin is, she's still someone who lived in peaceful times, facing me who survived the ruthless apocalypse. She immediately retreated behind my aunt in tears. My uncle was so angry that veins bulged on his temples. What kind of parents would raise such an ill-mannered thing like you? Since your parents are dead, I'll properly educate you in their place today. I shot a cold glare at them. In my past life, it was him who hacked off my limbs one slash at a time. The seething resentment became palpable, freezing uncle in his tracks with fright. Seeing this, Aunt immediately rushed out with a forced smile. Don't be angry, Celeste. Your uncle just spoke hastily because he's afraid you might be deceived. Tell Aunt the truth. Where did those 3 million really go? I threw the transaction order right in front of her. My aunt took one look and nearly fainted with her eyes rolling back. My cousin was so frantic she started jumping up and down, calling me a lunatic on the spot. But when she saw me walking toward her with a teapot, she immediately covered her mouth in fear, tears welling up in her eyes. Coward. Seeing the family's ashen faces, I sneered inwardly. The money belongs to my parents, so it's only right that I use it to buy joss paper to honor them anyway. I've spent all the money my parents left me, and only this old house remains. Aunt suddenly sat up, her eyes gleaming. I knew she had taken the bait, so I leisurely went to the kitchen to boil water and make tea, for occasional cries and commotion could be heard from the living room. Cousin was rolling on the floor, complaining that Auntie was too slow to act, letting the 3 million slip away. There's still this apartment. It's in a school district. It'll definitely appreciate in a couple of years. Don't worry, sweetie. Mom will definitely get it for you. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Just when I was worried about not being able to sell the house, my aunt's family took the bait. When the apocalypse comes, all houses will be occupied by fierce ghosts. Humans who want shelter will have to pay with spirit money to rent from the ghosts. My house was taken over by fierce ghosts just days after the apocalypse began. At that time, I spent most of my spirit money and paid the price of an arm to escape from the house. After discussing for a long time, my aunt's family indeed brought up the matter of buying a house. 1.2 million, not a penny less. My aunt's face immediately froze. She forced a smile. Celeste, how about 800,001? 2 million, we really can't come up with that amount. I knew perfectly well they could definitely scrape together 2 million, they'd just have to patch it together from various sources, maybe even sell the family's old house. But what does this have to do with me? My face turned cold as I yanked the door open. If you don't want it, then leave. The market price for this house starts at 4 million. If you don't want it, there are plenty of people lining up to buy it. Auntie certainly knew that 2 million was them getting a bargain. Hearing me say this, they immediately panicked and repeatedly promised to gather the money as soon as possible, at most 1 week. After 1 week I'll go find an agent, and if someone else gets the better deal then don't blame me. Auntie clenched her teeth tightly, suppressing her anger as she walked out the door. It wasn't until I closed the door that I started cursing loudly at the house. On the evening of the 6th day, Auntie stood at my doorstep with a dark expression. Compared to 6 days ago, she looked much more haggard. Even the gold bracelet she always wore on her hand and proudly showed off in her daily social media posts was gone. I knew she had invested a fortune. The house was handed over upon payment. Aunt's family held the property deed, their faces beaming with joy. My cousin looked down on me with arrogance. This is my house now. Get out immediately. Memories of being tormented day and night by the fierce ghost in the house resurfaced in my mind. I let out a cold laugh at my aunt's family. I can't wait to see the expressions on their faces when the apocalypse comes and they realize what they've sacrificed everything for is a flesh-eating demon. 5. With the 2 million I just received, I contacted the funeral money vendor again. The vendor accepted the order and even generously threw in some other funeral supplies. My hands paused mid-action. In my past life, I was dirt poor and could only afford the cheapest rented house. As for those towering buildings, I didn't even dare to dream about them. With my boss's reminder, I suddenly had an epiphany. If paper money can be burned, then paper houses and paper effigies should also be registered under my name. Just thinking about it made me so excited I couldn't sleep. After all, no matter how much money you have, it can still run out. Only real estate like houses can continuously generate wealth. As for paper effigies, if they could also be utilized by me, it would provide an additional layer of survival security in the apocalypse. I immediately sent a message to the boss. 1,200,000, make another 200,000 in spirit money, and use the rest to produce other funeral items. The more varieties the better. Immediately after, I sent the special requests to the boss. Besides the usual paper houses, I also want a batch in high-rise building styles. The paper figures don't require quantity. The more exquisite they are, the better. The boss slowly sent me a question mark. Just as I was racking my brains to justify my actions, the boss stopped asking further. In our line of work, we all know what can be asked and what cannot. The items you want need to be custom-made by the master craftsman. We'll need to discuss both price and quantity. Seeing he didn't press further, I breathed a sigh of relief, but it also brought me back to sober reality from my initial euphoria. You decide how to allocate the money. In short, everything must be burned within the stipulated time. The boss agreed to each request one by one. For the remaining time, I randomly checked into a hotel to stay. The spirit money and other funeral items were delivered to the incineration plant in batches, and the last bits will be burned today. I settled the final payment with my boss. After repeatedly hinting to my boss to prepare more hell money for me, I deactivated the phone number I used to contact him. Today is the last day of the peaceful era. Lying in bed, I couldn't fall asleep no matter what, fearing that something might go wrong and I'd repeat the tragedy of my past life, until the clock hand past midnight. The familiar red light outside the window instantly illuminated the entire land. The distant sky seemed torn open, with dark shadows pouring out from the rift. Instantly, the places where the fierce ghosts passed were filled with shrill screams. I clutched the corner of the table desperately, my heart pounding wildly. The apocalypse has come. At the same time, a chill ran through my wrist. Looking down, I saw a bracelet firmly clasped around my wrist. A ding sound rang in my ears. Immediately after, crimson words rose before my eyes. Esteemed VIP, welcome to Heaven and Earth Bank. In light of your substantial assets deposited with us, we are pleased to offer you exclusive services. All the previously burned spirit money had been credited to my account. The screen flashed as the system began tallying up the properties, shops, and vehicles under my name. The joy of sudden wealth instantly dispelled my fear of the apocalypse. I couldn't help but roll around on the bed in excitement. A ghost drifted through the hotel door and floated eerily before me. Sensing the presence of a living being, it immediately bared its fangs and lunged at me with a ferocious expression. With a mere thought, a stack of cash materialized in my hand out of thin air. With a flick of my wrist, $100 bills scattered across the floor. The fierce ghost that had been snarling just a second ago froze in place, its face filled with disbelief. From now on, you are my back-pounding ghost. The fierce ghost seemed to feel insulted and rushed at me in a rage. I took out 2 bundles of cash and threw them in front of it. It paused in surprise, then suddenly knelt down before me with a thud. This old servant has arrived. This old servant has arrived. Just as I was enjoying the fawning service of the back-pounding ghost, my phone started ringing like crazy. Seeing it was my aunt, a cold glint flashed through my eyes. I've let her discuss me in my phone for so many days. Just to witness today's grand spectacle, the moment the call connected. A piercing wail came through the phone. "Celeste, what did you put in my house? Get it out now." I spoke unhurriedly. "Auntie, you were the one who wanted to buy the house, and you already changed the locks. What does this have to do with me now that something's happened?" My aunt's family was shouting curses from across the street, but under the torment of the fierce ghost, it didn't take long before they changed their tune and begged me for help. I'd heard enough of their screams. So I decisively hung up the phone. What's the hurry? I endured this ghost's torment for several days back then. 6. After hanging up the phone, the back-scratching ghost was still grinning obsequiously. The ghost that barged in, seeing its spineless demeanor, couldn't help but want to execute it on the spot. However, after being struck by my brick of cash, they all immediately changed their expressions. Thus, a bizarre scene unfolded in my hotel room. Ghosts of all kinds lined up to pitch themselves to me. Soon the entire hotel was completely surrounded. I couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Money really can make the devil turn the millstones. Just as the fierce ghosts were fighting tooth and nail for a position, several white figures suddenly appeared at the hotel entrance. As several beams of white light flashed, the fierce ghosts let out shrill screams and scattered in all directions. Several figures darted in front of me in an instant. Before I could react, they immediately lined up and bowed to me. I took a closer look and breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be the paper effigy I had burned earlier. Never expected they could truly appear in the apocalypse, transforming into an astonishingly powerful bodyguard squad. The most exquisitely dressed paper effigy stepped forward to face me. Suddenly, an electronic screen materialized before it. All my properties are listed here, displayed before me in the form of a map. A piece of land suddenly appeared in the northernmost part of the city. In front lies a bustling commercial street, while behind stands an orderly cluster of villas. Among the villa cluster, an exquisite courtyard house stands out most prominently, surrounded by my bodyguard entourage. I got into the car and drowsily headed towards North City. Upon stepping into North City's territory, I found not a single soul in sight. Only paper effigies were maintaining the city's order with meticulous discipline. As my vehicle passed by, they paused their tasks and bowed reverently in my direction. It was only through the paper figurine's introduction that I learned this area of North City appeared simultaneously with the apocalypse. At first, all kinds of fierce ghosts coveted this land, fighting fiercely over ownership rights, but soon, after the first wave of attacking ghosts were completely annihilated, no spirits dared to covet this territory again. The fierce ghosts speculated endlessly about who the true master of this land might be, but no matter how curious they were, they dared not approach this place lightly. Now, this land could well be called humanity's last paradise. After briefly learning about the situation in North City, the car stopped right in front of the courtyard house. I stood in the courtyard, taking a long time to come back to my senses. In this life, I finally have a home of my own. No more worrying about ghosts suddenly breaking in to chop off my limbs as rent payment. Remembering my aunt's family, I turned on the security camera I'd installed earlier. 7. Right now, my aunt's family is trembling and huddled in a corner of the living room. And above their heads was the fierce ghost that had occupied my house in a past life. The fierce ghost gazed greedily at the family, as if calculating who to devour first. A drop of drool fell onto my cousin's face. My cousin's face stiffened, and she couldn't help but scream, "You monster, get away from me." Drop dead. The vengeful aura around the fierce ghost grew denser, its bulging eyes fixed intently on my cousin. My aunt slapped my cousin twice in quick succession. "Shut your mouth." My cousin was beaten until the corner of her mouth split open, holding back tears as she covered her mouth in terror. My aunt looked obsequiously at the fierce ghost. "We don't want the house anymore. We'll leave right away. But this is my wedding home." The cousin unwillingly grabbed the aunt. After being glared at fiercely by the aunt, she shut her mouth with a face as pale as death, watching the family cautiously inching toward the door. I couldn't help but snicker, trying to leave. It's not that easy. Just as Auntie was eagerly grasping the doorknob with hopeful eyes, a spray of blood splashed across her face. Auntie stared blankly downward. Her 4 fingers had been cleanly severed and were now dangling from the doorknob. She finally realized what was happening, let out a blood-curdling scream, foamed at the mouth, and collapsed backward. My cousin turned pale with fright, shrieking as she scrambled away. Uncle was leaning against the cabinet, vomiting violently until the world spun. For a moment, no one attended to Aunt lying on the ground convulsing. The ferocious ghost lolled its long tongue, eerily repeating, "Money, give me money." Only then did my cousin snap out of it, pulling out all the valuables she had on her. "Take it all. Please spare us." But these treasures she held dear were worthless in the ghost's eyes. The fierce ghost kept repeating, "Give me spirit money," advancing step by step. Where would my cousin have such a thing on her? She collapsed to the ground, weeping bitterly. No spirit money, then use a living person to pay the debt. Who among you is willing to stay? 8. The aunt's family huddled together, pleading desperately. No one was willing to go to their death. The fierce ghost's patience had long run out. In a flash of red light, the uncle who was still embracing his weeping aunt found his arm falling to the ground. The aunt and cousin screamed and dodged away. The aunt even kicked away his hand, reaching for help. Husband, the child is still young and can't be without my care. I've wronged you. I'll burn more paper money for you in the future. A trace of despair appeared on the ferocious face of the uncle, struggling to prop himself up with his broken arm. He fiercely grabbed the aunt by the neck. Only when the aunt choked and rolled her eyes did the terrified cousin, who had been scared out of her wits nearby, finally snap out of it. He stays. We choose him. Uncle still wanted to resist, but the fierce ghost gave him no more chances. Watching the fierce ghost drag the limp uncle into the darkness, aunt and cousin clung to each other, wailing as if reborn from disaster. Supporting her aunt, the cousin helped her stand up, and the two quickly headed for the door. It's all your father's fault for being useless. If he could earn money, would we have bought this unlucky house? He deserved to die. From now on, Mom will protect you. Is that so? Watching my aunt speak with such conviction, I forced a smile. The door opens. The mother and daughter, seeing the scene outside, felt their hopeful expressions fade away one by one. The outside had long been occupied by fierce ghosts. At this moment, they were staring intently at Auntie's severed hand. To starving ghosts who have endured centuries of hunger, the scent of human blood holds an irresistible temptation. Driven by maternal instinct, Auntie desperately shielded my cousin with her own body, thus she missed the fleeting glimpse of venomous malice on my cousin's face. Auntie continued pleading desperately for the ferocious ghost to spare them both. Mom, didn't you say you'd protect me? My aunt froze for a moment, as if remembering something, then turned around in disbelief, but the next second, my cousin shoved her out. Mom, I know you love me most. Since your hand is broken and you can't leave anyway, why not let me go out instead? The aunt clung tightly to her cousin's skirt, refusing to let go. It wasn't until her cousin stepped on the broken hand that she cried out in pain and finally released her grip. She was pinned beneath layers of ferocious ghosts, being devoured alive. My cousin took one glance and rushed out without looking back. In the end, the fierce ghosts dismembered and devoured her. Aunt stared wide-eyed at the direction my cousin fled. Two trails of bloody tears streaming from her eyes. She refused to believe her beloved daughter would abandon her, holding on until the very last moment. But until the last fierce ghost left satiated, she still didn't see her cousin turn back. I watched my aunt's expression. I wonder if she could comprehend the despair I felt when being dismembered piece by piece in my past life. 9. I couldn't care less where my cousin fled to. She has always been lazy and gluttonous. Without her aunt, she might struggle to even survive. I've devoted my entire body and soul to the construction of North City. After observing these past few days, I've noticed that the paper figures only work and move in specific areas, never setting foot in this villa district. Surprisingly, I'm the only one living in the entire villa area, with all the other spaces left unused. I don't want to see such a good house go to waste like this. After much deliberation, the next day I posted a rental notice outside the Northern City. The news spread quickly. The Northern City Villa District is now available for rent, tenants limited to humans only. This undoubtedly caused a huge uproar among the struggling human factions. There actually exists a human faction capable of resisting the fierce ghosts. For a time, the North City's outer gate was packed with people coming to seek refuge. I sent paper effigies to maintain order outside. Many fierce ghosts were drawn to the living, but after witnessing the paper effigies' formidable power, none dared to act rashly, only pacing anxiously at the periphery. I stood on the wall observing those who came seeking refuge. Most faces bore expressions of fear and helplessness in the face of the apocalypse. Suddenly, a small team in the corner caught my attention, though covered in dust and grime. Their eyes still flickered with the flame of survival. Compared to other survivors, their lives appeared somewhat more comfortable. Those who passed the review rushed into the North City with excited faces. As I looked at the smiles on their faces, an indescribable emotion welled up in my heart. The team was quickly approved. Suppressing my emotions, I walked up to them. The leader was a hooded girl. She placed a stack of spirit money in front of me. We're a ghost hunting team seeking your protection. I was startled inwardly. After seeing the amount of spirit money before me, I couldn't help but purse my lips. Daring to call yourself ghost hunter and casually producing so many spirit coins, this is no ordinary person. A talisman materialized in the girl's palm. As the talisman burned, the eerie ghostly aura surrounding them momentarily vanished. I'm a talisman master. After the apocalypse began, I formed a team with my fellow disciples. That's how we made it this far. She concisely recounted the team's achievements, including robbing the Phantom Bank and hunting ghosts, things I never dared imagine. I suspect these teams had been fighting since their past lives, but back then, I was struggling to survive and never had the chance to interact with them. Seeing me silent, the girl gradually slowed her speech and finally sighed. She bowed her head to apologize to me, then took the spirit money from the table and prepared to leave. At that moment, someone suddenly rushed up to me, ignoring the paper effigy's threat. They knelt directly before me. "Please take Evangeline in. I'm willing to give up my chance to enter the city." The girl frowned deeply and pulled the person up. "Taking us in means openly opposing the fierce ghosts. No one wants to get involved in this mess. The city lord has already saved many by opening the gates. Don't guilt trip them." After being pulled up, the person still knelt stiffly straight. "Many of our lives were saved by Evangeline. If you're not going, I won't enter either." Witnessing the scene before me, I couldn't help but be deeply moved. In my past life during the apocalypse, I only encountered deception and violence. Never did I imagine such warmth could exist beneath the terror. Now, though I possess an entire city and endless wealth, I only think of self-preservation, never daring to imagine I could save humanity. After all, no matter how strong my paper guardian team is, they can't protect everyone. But upon seeing this squad, an unprecedented thought suddenly surged in my heart. If this talisman's power could be stronger and used by more people, wouldn't that mean humanity still has hope? Remembering the hopeful expressions on the faces of those entering the city, I stopped the departing girl. "Beijing welcomes your arrival." The girl stared blankly at the key in her hand, her eyes instantly reddening. 10. The girl's name is Evangeline. From her words, I learned that even before the apocalypse arrived, there were occasional wild ghosts roaming about. But back then, the ghosts didn't possess such formidable power. With their talisman mastery, they could repel the ghosts. Yet now, the apocalypse has arrived. While the ferocious ghosts' power surges, talisman masters have lost their material supply, greatly diminishing their strength. Before reaching North City, Evangeline's group had already lost more than half of their members. "Do you know any other talisman masters?" Evangeline let out a bitter laugh. "Talisman masters are scattered across the country, but with the apocalypse upon us, our lineage can barely protect ourselves, let alone have the energy to contact others." I understood clearly in my heart. That very night, paper effigies were sent to post the rental notices in more distant locations, with the announcement explicitly stating preferential treatment for those with specialized skills. Within a few days, the number of people seeking refuge in North City had doubled. Among them were not only individuals who held important professions before the apocalypse, but also a scattered few possessing the ability to exorcise spirits. I couldn't help but feel happy, but soon I couldn't laugh anymore. Though the northern city is large, its capacity is limited. In just a few days, most of the residences in the city were already occupied. I'm no longer content with merely surviving in this post-apocalyptic world. To restore humanity, we must further expand the northern city. The stacks of hell banknotes burned before the apocalypse finally came in handy. While ordering paper effigies to purchase land outside the northern city, I secretly acquired materials needed for talisman making. In just a few days, the northern city expanded its perimeter. The banished fierce ghosts harbored resentment, but cowed by the tyranny of money, none dared to voice their anger. As for Evangeline, with premium materials at hand, the potency of her talismans increased significantly, though everything was progressing favorably. But I know humanity's revival won't be that simple. That very night, I received a visitation notice from a fierce ghost leader. Evangeline feared it might harm me, so she worked through the night to create protective talismans for me to carry. Later, she even offered to meet the leader in my place. I refused, because the visit from the fierce ghost leader was actually part of my plan all along. 11. I just didn't expect there to be a minor incident on the day of the fierce ghost leader's visit. I arrived at the northern city gate early, wanting to secretly observe the strength of leader-level beings. But just then, a cup of hot tea was spilled on my dress. My face turned cold as I looked up. My cousin's face, unseen for so long, appeared before me. At this moment, she was heavily made up, leaning against a greasy man. Before I could speak, my cousin sneered. "I didn't expect you to still be alive. Truly, the poor have tough lives, but you can only linger around the outer gates of North City. A place like this isn't for paupers like you." After speaking, she nestled into the man's embrace. The man leered at me with a lustful gaze, looking me up and down. Seeing this, my cousin immediately rolled her eyes. "Although you're a shabby little wretch, you're barely presentable. If you kneel and kowtow to me and Raiden right now, Raiden might make an exception and take you in. Show you around the villa district." Raiden sprawled arrogantly in front of me, lifting his head with disdain. I let out a cold laugh, watching them quietly. To this day, I am no longer the little girl who could be manipulated by my aunt's family. Under my cold gaze, Ryden's expression shifted slightly, and the disdain on his face lessened somewhat, but my cousin remained as tactless as ever, flushed with the confidence of having found a powerful backer. She was eager to trample me into the dirt. Seeing that I showed no reaction to the mention of the Villa District, my cousin flew into a rage. "No surprise you're a pauper, you've never even heard of the Villa District. Let me tell you, I'm moving in this afternoon. Someone like you could never set foot there in your lifetime." I looked at my cousin, the disdain in my eyes unconcealed. "You can't possibly not know who owns North City, can you?" A glint flashed in Ryden's eyes as he looked at me with increased frustration. He reached out to stop my cousin, but my cousin was too caught up in her triumphant moment to pay any attention to his attempt. "What? You're not going to claim this place as yours, are you? In this city, you're not even fit to be a dog, let alone dream of becoming the city lord." These words happened to fall upon Evangeline's ears as she returned to report. With a wave of her hand, the scalding hot tea before me splashed onto my cousin's face. The cousin's face was contorted with pain from the burns, baring her teeth as she screamed curses at us. But the next second, Ryden slapped her to the ground with one strike. The cousin stared at Ryden in disbelief. "How dare you hit me? You must have taken a fancy to this little hussy. Celeste, you're nothing but a vixen." Hearing my cousin speak my name, Ryden's face turned ashen. He turned and delivered a vicious kick to my cousin's chest. "Shut your mouth. I pitied you when your parents abandoned you, so I took you in. Had I known it would come to this, I should have let you die among the ghosts." Abandoned by parents? I couldn't help but laugh out loud and stepped on my cousin's chest. "You haven't forgotten how Aunt died, have you?" My cousin's expression changed abruptly as she suddenly lunged to strangle me, but this is my territory. Before she could touch me, two paper figures flashed in front of me. My cousin stared blankly at her broken hand for a moment before letting out a wail, but this time, she didn't dare to curse me again. After all, everyone knows there's only one person who can make paper effigies serve. Ryden fawned as he approached me, handing over a card. "Boss, this woman has nothing to do with me. Who knows what madness suddenly possessed her? This is my token of sincerity. I hope Beijing will take me in the apocalypse. Those who can obtain the Heaven and Earth Bank pass card must have at least tens of millions in savings." I didn't confiscate the card, just looked at him without any warmth in my gaze. "Ryden, the one thing I'm never short of is money. I'll give you one last minute, if you don't leave now. You can stay here with her." Ryden's smile froze on his face. He wanted to say more, but after glancing at the paper effigy behind me, he finally turned away with an ashen expression. As he passed by my cousin, he shot her a vicious glare. Only then did my cousin snap out of her daze. "You can't leave. You promised to take me into the city. We have money, don't we?" Ryden cursed angrily, kicked her over, and strode away. My cousin fell to the ground and only after a long while crawled desperately toward me. "I'm your sister. If you dare drive me away, I'll tell everyone outside the city how heartless you are." I pushed her away. "She won't get another chance to leave the city." I ordered the paper effigy to lock her in the dungeon. It was pitch dark inside, with only a video recorder running. Since she's forgotten how her aunt died, I'll help her remember it clearly. 12. Just as all this was done, the fierce ghost leader arrived at the northern city gate. The defensive line that could block all minor ghosts had little effect on it. It only paused for a moment before continuing to approach the northern city. My heart grows colder by the moment. I could only secretly rejoice that I hadn't abused my wealth to act recklessly. Who knows how many fierce ghosts of this caliber exist, let alone those even more powerful that I've never encountered. The leader, filled with anger, exerted pressure at every turn. I smiled under the eerie ghostly aura. "You've misunderstood. I'm just a merchant. I know exactly what should and shouldn't be done." The leader snorted coldly, utterly unconvinced by my words. I continued speaking without pause. "The recent rapid expansion was just due to cash flow problems. If you could lend me some underworld currency, then..." The leader's expression softened slightly, but when I mentioned the amount of underworld currency I wanted to borrow, his face instantly darkened. "In 1 year, I'll repay double the principal plus interest." The leader stared at me with a sinister gaze. "Human, if you can't repay, I'll have you sliced into 1,000 pieces. Of course, if I can't repay, besides letting you do as you please with me, this city will also be yours." The leader pondered for a moment, snorted coldly, threw down a card, and vanished. I returned to the city contentedly with the money. In the following months, I used the same trick to swindle more money from other leaders. Not only did I repay the first leader's loan within a year, but I also had plenty of funds to make talismans for Evangeline. Other fierce ghost leaders, coveting the high interest rates, never refused to lend me money, so by robbing Peter to pay Paul, I bought Beijing a lot of time for development, but the interest had already reached a point where I couldn't afford to pay it back. Staring at the multiple zeros in the debt amount, Evangeline couldn't help but sigh. I smiled and comforted her. I currently hold most of the liquid assets in the underworld, so those leaders wouldn't dare touch me. After all, according to Underworld Bank's rules, if I die, all my assets automatically vanish. They wouldn't get a single coin, driven by greed. If I borrow from the next leader, they'd even take out loans themselves just to lend to me. Every ghost is gambling, betting that this time bomb won't explode in their hands. This way they can effortlessly double their funds while lounging at home. The old me might have still feared their retaliation, but now the influence of North City keeps expanding, with more and more talented individuals coming to join. Evangeline and her team incorporated various school strengths to improve the talismans, even burying a massive spell array beneath North City. At this time, I had just inherited the fortune, fearing the power of the Northern City. The fierce ghosts no longer dared to act as brazenly as before in the human world. Humans and ghosts coexisted peacefully for several more years. Finally, one day, all the fierce ghosts returned to the underworld one after another. Turns out the underworld's funds couldn't withstand my reckless spending anymore, so they gritted their teeth and left in anger, after over a decade of darkness. Humanity finally welcomed the light. The surviving humans flocked to North City, expanding outward from the central hub. Perhaps before long, this place will regain its pre-apocalyptic prosperity. On the day the fierce ghosts withdrew, I suddenly remembered there was still one person locked in the dungeon. The fierce ghost harbored resentment toward me but dared not attack me directly, so it directed all its fury at my cousin instead, having received the news in advance. I deliberately reduced the guards, allowing the fierce ghost to enter the prison with ease. The night before sending my cousin away, I met her for the last time. At this moment, she wasn't yelling at me like before, just staring at me with a sinister look in her eyes. "You knew everything all along, didn't you? You colluded with that vicious ghost to kill my parents, didn't you?" I thought she might have guessed that I was a reincarnator. Never expected her imagination to run so wild, but so what? No one would argue with a dead person. I slowly leaned close to her ear, watching her pupils dilate wider and wider. "Guess